be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wow, what a show we've got ahead. Very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. It's sizzling in Westminster. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. There's only one story in town today. Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Today, I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
In this past hour, Nigel Farage has sensationally announced that he will trigger a by-election by formally resigning as a Member of Parliament in Clacton in an attempt to defy his political opponents amidst a string of stories about financial support he has received. And the Reform UK leader, though, will stand in the forthcoming by-election and insists the fresh poll will be a people versus the establishment by-election. Throughout the show today, we'll have all the very latest news, debate and analysis to this electrifying announcement in Westminster today, and that's all coming up in your next hour. Yeah, breaking news for you this afternoon, of course. In the last hour, Nigel Farage has announced that he will resign as the Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering a by-election that he will stand in as the candidate.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election, which should happen, I hope, in short order. No, I've decided that the people of Clacton should be the judges of my actions. This will be a people versus the establishment by-election. It's a chance to stick two fingers up to the entire establishment, to frankly tell them where to go. And that is why I will be putting my name forward to stand in this by-election. I will fight to win. I will fight to continue the political revolution that reform has started. And I would say this to you, the voters of Clacton: if I win, you win. Because if I lose, they win. And we will never, with the two old parties, get the type of fundamental change that we need to fix broken Britain.
Well, the gauntlet was thrown down in the most dramatic of manners. Nobody was spared. The flamethrower from Farage earlier on, the establishment media, the political class, the entire establishment. What a day. Let's now get to GB News' political editor Chris Hope, who joins us from College Green in Westminster with, I believe, Robert Jenrick for his first interview as a Reform MP reacting to this news. Chris, over to you.
Yeah, Martin, Robert Jenrick is delayed in traffic. He'll be with me as soon as we can get him to you. And of course, that was the first interview from any senior figure in Reform UK on this seismic news from Nigel Farage. Within the past hour, he has quit as MP for Clacton. It is a £230,000 gamble on his career. That is the cost of having a by-election nowadays, with all of the various admin you do with a by-election, polling stations and organising it and counts and all that kind of thing. The question now is, what will the other parties do? Will they stand a candidate against Nigel Farage? Will they support a single candidate, an anyone but Farage candidate, to take on Nigel Farage? Or will they all offer individual candidates and just go to town on trying to keep him out of Parliament? It's a challenge, though, from Nigel Farage. He's saying to the main parties, you don't want me in Parliament, you don't want me to exist, you're attacking Reform UK. Here's your chance to kick me out. A challenge. He's laying down the gauntlet to the establishment. He said in his 10-minute statement an hour ago, it's your chance to put two fingers up at the establishment, to take on the establishment, take on the establishment parties who want to kill me off. Quite what other members of Reform make of this, we'll wait and see. But he hasn't resigned as Reform UK leader. He has resigned as an MP. What appears to have been the trigger for this is clear. He is concerned about attacks, as he sees it, on his family, on the way that a newspaper called The Times last week published information about where his family live. He has family members living there, and that is what is so upsetting for him. He is a father and grandfather first, I think, and a political leader definitely third after those two priorities, and that's what has annoyed him. It's triggered him to make these points. Outside of that, he's got the gift, the £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, the cryptocurrency millionaire, other money coming in from other rich donors. He sees, why is the state, or the establishment party, not the state, the establishment parties attacking those individuals for donating. He also was triggered by broadcasters from the Pool group of broadcasters, of which GBNews is a member, knocking on the doors of those houses mentioned that he owns in the UK. There may have been someone who may have met, one of the cameras may have met with a member of the family. That has also upset him deeply. Now, I've got the first reaction in from a party leader for you, Martin. Sir Ed Davey, who is the Liberal Democrat leader, he says this: Nigel Farage has spent his whole life dodging responsibility for his actions. This new stunt is his latest attempt to escape consequences for his biggest grift. We won't let him. Now, what he's saying there is, well, he's not saying there he'll stand. He's saying the Lib Dems won't let Nigel Farage escape consequences for his biggest grift. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. That may be a holding statement before we know what the Lib Dems will do. We'll bring you other reaction as soon as we get it.
Chris, when you look at the scores on the doors, quite simply, nobody can beat Nigel Farage as it stands in this seat. It is actually the UK's 7th safest seat, and every metric, every bookie, every electoral prediction has Farage as the candidate to win this seat by a country mile. Electoral calculus has him at 97%. There's been a nowcast projection for Clacton has just been published. It has them at 91%, Reform on 48% of the vote. The nearest second vote, Conservatives on 19.2%. Restore, if they stood, Rupert Lowe has been rumoured that he would like to cause mischief in the seat. Of course, it's quite close to Great Yarmouth. At present, they would only poll 12%. So on paper, there's nobody that can beat him, Chris Hope. Nobody.
Martin. That's right, Martin. I've got some more response here from the smaller parties. So Zach Polanski, the Green Party, he's also not saying they will stand a candidate. He says this, Zach Polanski, of course, the insurgent party of the left at the moment. Nigel Farage is once again trying to con the public with this stunt, trying to duck the fact that his history of taking dodgy donations, he calls them, is finally catching up with him. This is not Nigel Farage versus the establishment, but the establishment's man against truth, honesty and decency. As much as he now protests he is the victim of a so-called smear campaign against him, the truth is he is a grifter brought down by his own grifting. He's never been a man of the people, but a representative of the wealthy and the establishment. He continues, we need to take big money out of politics with a cap on political funding, on donations, and state funding for political parties, so they're not in the pocket of the wealthy and powerful. So the Greens not saying they'll stand against Nigel Farage, but the development here, Restore UK will stand a candidate against Nigel Farage. So Restore UK, which polled, I think, 4 or 5% in the Makerfield by-election, they will stand against Nigel Farage. As things stand, this will be a battle for the right between Restore UK and Reform UK. It won't be Rupert Lowe, the Restore leader, unless he also resigns as MP for Great Yarmouth. That might be too much for one day, frankly. But we hear this from Rupert Lowe in the past few moments. Nigel Farage has proven one thing today and one thing only. Everything he does is about one person, Nigel Farage. Looking now at the cameras, moving now to Robert Jenrick arriving. I'll keep reading there. The people of Clacton do not need a media circus descending on their town over a busy tourist season because their MP has made a series of bad decisions. He should have declared that the 25 million, he knows it. We all know it. Now he's going to weaponise a by-election to distract from that. Joining me now is Robert Jenrick, the MP.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good. That was reading out the statement there from Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe is standing against your leader in Clacton. Do you welcome that?
Well, look, bring it on. You've just heard a statement from the only true leader in this country right now, the only man who's got the courage of his convictions, who will fix this country, who bring about the radical change that the public actually want to see. And look, the people in the building behind me, the political establishment, the two old parties or what remains of it, the media, they don't get to decide who runs this country. They don't get to play judge and jury and executioner. We live in a democracy. Nigel Farage is going to trust the people of Clacton and put himself forward in the by-election to come.
Let's break that down. We live in a democracy, but this will cost £230,000 of our tax money. Is it not an ego-driven stunt by Nigel Farage?
No, look, this country is broken. It needs fundamental change. Nigel is the only man who's capable of doing that. And if it takes a by-election, if it takes the people of Clacton, the great constituency of Clacton, who I know respect Nigel as their Member of Parliament, then so be it. We trust their judgment and let's see what happens. But I'd just say this, Chris, in the last week alone, you've had the Tory party likening Nigel to a man who stood trial for conspiracy to murder. I mean, totally unhinged. You've had the Labour Party trying to change the law so that British citizens cannot give legitimate donations to Reform. And you've had the Labour Party continuing to fight day in, day out to stop this party, as they did, remember, at the local elections, when they illegally cancelled the right of 5 million British people to vote. And parts of the media, they've been harassing his daughter on the doorstep of her home, someone who has nothing to do with public life at all. Well, enough is enough. Nigel is a fighter. He's going to now go and put his fate in the hands of the people of Clacton. And this is a referendum on the future of our country. Do we want continued decline, or do we want to turn this country around? I know where I stand. That's why I joined Reform. And I believe the people of Clacton want to see this country picked up and put on a path to success again.
What will change Robert Jenrick if he is re-elected as the MP for Clacton? Because the inquiry into his finances, the £5 million, that will carry on. That is paused while he's not in Parliament. It will carry on. What will change apart from £250,000 of our money being spent on a by-election that wasn't necessary?
Well, the people will have decided. And we live in a democracy. We should cherish that. As I said, it is not for the uni party, the two old failed parties who got this country into the mess it is today. It's not for people in wood-panelled rooms in the Palace of Westminster or executives at Sky News or the Sunday Times to determine who leads this country. It is for the people. And this by-election gives the opportunity for the people of Clacton, who voted for Nigel at the general election 2 years ago and who he has served loyally for the last 2 years, to send a voice very loud and clear to Palace of Westminster and all the people who inhabit it that they want change and they want Nigel to lead this country after the next general election, when I hope there'll be a Reform government with him as our Prime Minister.
When will the by-election be? Do you know that? Has he got a team around him? What happens next?
Well, we want it to be as soon as possible, and we've got a team, all right. We've got 300,000 members or close to it, and they will be on the streets of Clacton, I am certain, fighting for Nigel, fighting for our country.
And when did you find out about his plans?
Earlier today.
Oh, you're smiling at me. For those listening to the radio, were you surprised by this? I mean, he's obviously very angry. He's a father, grandfather. He says his family are being harassed.
No, I'm a dad, Chris, and I've had times where parts of the media have chosen to put pictures of my house in the newspapers, which has meant that my kids have been exposed to threats. And when I saw Nigel coming back from the US the other night, I thought that was a dad being worried about his daughter and being sick of being hounded. And he obviously thought about it very deeply over the course of the last few days and came to the conclusion that it wasn't just right for him and his family, but it was right for the country as well. Because people don't want a stitch-up. They want change. And I am certain that we will never get the change we need in this country unless Nigel Farage is our Prime Minister. And if it takes a by-election, if it takes the good people of Clacton to put a cross next to his name in a few weeks' time, then so be it. Bring it on.
Robert Jenrick, thank you. That's your first reaction from Reform UK to this announcement. Then Robert Jenrick there, of course, who is the party's finance spokesman. Martin.
Thank you very much indeed, Chopper. High drama there on College Green. Will, of course, be coming back to you throughout the rest of this afternoon. An incredible day in politics. You're right in the middle of it there, Chris. We'll come back to you for more breaking news as and when it happens on a quite astonishing day in British politics. Let's get my next guest on board now. And that's the political commentator, Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, it's always a pleasure to have your company. What's your reaction to this astonishing news today?
Just bonkers. I can't find the words. We saw obviously the headlines. There's going to be an announcement. So straight away, my instinct was he's going to resign. But obviously he did, and he is standing again. So it is quite a gamble. I think he is banking on the support that Reform have had. And obviously it's all down to Nigel Farage as a media personality that has generated like 300,000 members of Reform since 2024. So it's quite interesting to see what's going to happen. So sources on the ground tell me that the by-election is going to be around middle of August. So we're thinking the 13th of August. That will give enough time for a new MP, member of parliament, if it isn't Nigel, to be, to be onboarded and to go through security and everything that's needed to be able to attend parliament in September after the recess. So we're looking at about just over 5 weeks. That is not enough time. So it's going to be interesting. Right now, the only party that have Restore, Rupert Lowe is basically the only leader of an opposition party that has declared their intention to stand against Nigel Farage. So that's going to be an interesting battle. But I'm pretty confident that we're going to see members, other parties field candidates as well for Clacton.
I think it's going to be sooner than that. Andy Burnham went for a 4-week window. It's in an incumbent MP's best interest to go as soon as you can, because you don't want your opponents to mobilise. You own the seats, you know where the data is, your ground game is there. Andy Burnham went quick. That was the right thing to do. It wrong foots your opponents. When you call a by-election, you get to call the time of when it's set, so Reform UK can set that date. I'd be surprised if it's longer than 4 weeks. That's just me. Look at the scores on the doors. At present, Aisha Ali Khan, there's nobody could stand in that seat, could beat Nigel Farage. It's the 7th safest seat in the entire United Kingdom. Interestingly, the 4th safest seat is Reform UK's Lee Anderson in Ashfield. So the metric now is it's the people who will decide. Now, if the people agree that this £5 million donation is the only story in town, if the people agree that Nigel Farage is a grifter, as Ed Davey puts it, Ed Davey, by the way, has got a 1.2% chance of winning. He can say what he likes. He's got no chance of winning in Clacton. The Green Party, 0% chance of winning in Clacton at present metrics. So this is very much being set up by Nigel Farage as the people versus the establishment. He went full Donald Trump.
I mean, it's quite interesting you say this because obviously, as a member of parliament, people on the ground have been complaining. They hardly see him. He's only attended 33% or so of parliamentary debates. He's only voted 69 times out of the 206 times since 2024. There's lots and lots of things that could go wrong. But yes, the element of surprise, he absolutely nailed it. He managed to get there. And nobody was expecting this. I was not expecting this. And, I love politics. I sleep, eat, breathe politics. And even I was surprised. So it's quite interesting. And it is a gamble, honestly. If he manages to pull this off, all he will have done is reinforce the fact that people in Clacton want him as their MP. Like I think somebody mentioned earlier, the investigation into the £5 million is still outstanding. It's still ongoing. Sorry, there are other allegations that have been made against him by the Sunday Times. So there's a lot of things that are still there. And again, it's going to cost the taxpayer £250,000 for this exercise, let's just call it. But honestly, a week is a long time in politics. We don't know.
Aisha, the thing about, it's going to cost a load of money, I think Farage has got a line ready for that, and that is Andy Burnham hand-picked a constituency and one of his chums stood down to allow him a free run. So I think we can park that one. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Yeah, of course, by-elections have a cost to the public purse. But the fact of the matter is, it's been used to coronate Andy Burnham in Makerfield. So the criticism that Nigel Farage is doing this in Clacton is neutralised surely by that.
But Martin, I mean, my stance on that would be, well, you moaned and complained about it, and then you've gone and done the same thing. So make your mind up. If it was wrong for Andy, then why are you doing the same thing yourself, right?
Well, I don't think the circumstances... Well, no, hang on. I think that's worthy of analysis because people will have this debate, and I think rightly so. Andy Burnham called a by-election to get rid of Keir Starmer. Let's be brutal. It was an assassination, a political assassination of a Labour Party leader by a Labour Party mayor. And it was an inside job, done with the knowledge of the constituent MP, who now is being rewarded with the top job in the media comms department of the Labour Party. So I don't think, actually, the Labour Party have any high horse to clamber on here, Aisha. I really don't.
I mean, I would see this as something that Nigel Farage has done to get rid of Nigel Farage. But one other thing I wanted to just point out, there has been no mention of Nigel Farage standing down as leader of the Reform Party.
No, there hasn't.
So that's going to be interesting for me because even if, and for the rest of our country as well, because even if he has resigned and he doesn't win in Clacton, he will still be a leader of a party, a political party. So he will still be a part of the opposition. So he'll still be able to, debate and talk and use his platform. So in many ways, Nigel Farage isn't really losing anything other than potentially losing his parliamentary seat.
Because Andy Burnham was still the mayor of Manchester while he was standing in a by-election. A by-election doesn't affect your standing in your political party unless you voluntarily resign that as well. So at present, Nigel Farage is still the leader of Reform UK. He will stand as the candidate in Clacton for Reform UK. We need to see what the opponents do to mobilise against him, because at present, Rupert Lowe's Restorer said they will field a candidate. I think actually Nigel Farage might quite like that, because you'd think that would be taking votes from the Conservatives. At the moment, only the Conservatives have a chance of winning in that seat. Labour Party's got no chance, none whatsoever, not at present metrics. Anyway, look, we've got a quick statement here from that man, actually, Andy Burnham, Aisha, if I may read it out. A spokesperson for Andy Burnham has said this. This is the gimmick designed to distract from serious allegations about Farage's funders. What really matters in politics is how we can change Westminster to take power for communities and bring it back to people to make life more affordable for them. Aisha Ali Khan, hang on a minute. This is Andy Burnham, who called a by-election to assassinate and stab Keir Starmer in the back, saying this is to just... I'll put it to you again. The Labour Party, having just taken down the Prime Minister of this country to replace him with somebody who won't face a leadership election, precisely when Rishi Sunak was coronated the leader of the Conservatives, Andy Burnham, Angela Rayner, the whole damn lot of them were demanding a by-election. Now Andy Burnham's spokesperson is saying this is a gimmick. Come on, this is hypocrisy.
So let me just remind our viewers a little bit about what happened with Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak was basically the second Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister, to have been elected as leader and therefore Prime Minister without a general election. Don't forget, we had Boris Johnson and then Liz Truss and then Rishi Sunak. So that was why there was quite a large outcry for a general election, because by then we'd had about 3 years into Boris Johnson's reign as Prime Minister after the 2019 election. So the 2022 election was actually kind of just a year or so before the next election could have been called in 2023. So that was why there was a huge outcry saying we need a general election, because obviously Liz Truss was forced to resign, and then we had Rishi Sunak. That's not the case here at all. And just kind of talking about, an assassination and so on. Of course, I'm not a fan of what happened with Keir Starmer. I've campaigned for him. I was part of his leadership campaign team. Of course, is which is 2 years, not even 2 years into the job, and he was forced to resign. It's not something that I am proud of as a member of the Labour Party myself. But at the same time, we now have Andy Burnham potentially being, not even potentially, guaranteed to be named leader this week, and therefore our Prime Minister. So we're all supporting him. But this is something completely different in the way that Nigel Farage has been facing a barrage of accusations and scrutiny, and it's what we would call, Martin, the dead cat theory. Just throw a dead cat on the table, everybody starts talking about the dead cat and not about what the real issues are behind the scenes. And I think this is, he's used the element of surprise. He's called a press conference with like an hour and a half notice. He's then announced he's going to resign. So this is something, we're all talking about it now. Look at me. I'm on your show talking about it, right? You're talking about it. We're going to be talking about this for days. I've had people from all over the world message me saying, what the hell is going on? So this is something that has got people talking, but not about the money, not about, the 5 million, not about what Posh George has been funding. We're talking about a new by-election in Clacton, which, again, I've got to hand it to Nigel Farage. He has succeeded in changing the narrative yet again.
I guess in simplistic terms, if the residents, the constituents, the electorate, the voters of Clacton care about the same things as the political class in Britain, they care about the same things as the media class, Sky News, Sunday Times, that Nigel Farage was very, very critical about, more of that later on. If they totally agree with that, then he'll lose the election, right? But if they don't, if they think that's Westminster tittle-tattle, if they think, as Nigel Farage says, if they can't win by fair means, they're trying to win by foul means, they're trying to take him down and destroy his personality. If that's the script, if people in Clacton agree with you and agree with Westminster, Farage should lose the seat, right, by a landslide. I put it to you, that won't happen. And I wonder if that's because Nigel Farage is making this distinction, as Donald Trump did. They tried everything to stop Donald Trump. None of it worked. And Nigel Farage, in a sense, has called their bluff on this. Now, he might lose. It could be a huge gamble, but he might not.
It is a huge gamble, and I think that, and another thing, if he does win, but his majority has lessened, that is another indication of how popular. I mean, this is a popularity contest. Let's be honest here. This is him saying, Nigel Farage saying to the people of Clacton, if you want me back, I'm here, vote for me. It's up to you guys now. So this is going to be a real test of how popular. I mean, if he could easily increase his majority, which again, nobody knows. We don't know. I mean, I do. Can I just say, I'm part of a number of Labour Party activist groups, and we're all mobilising. So we're all ready. Whoever the candidate is going to be, there's no announcement yet, but whoever the candidate is, we have literally got all the WhatsApp groups have been pinging all afternoon. We're all ready to descend on Clacton and help out whoever is going to be standing. So this is something, and I feel the same thing's going to happen with the Greens. The same thing is going to happen with the Conservatives as well.
Aisha, I wish you good luck, and I think you might need it, because the Nowcast poll that's just come out, the projection half an hour ago, has the Labour Party on 6% of the votes. Now, of course, it's just a poll, it's fresh, a long way to go, but, it's gone to the people. They will now decide, not the media, not the establishment, the people. Thank you very much, Aisha Ali Khan, for joining us at short notice and sharing your expertise, as ever, to this breaking news story. Now, just to bring you up to speed, there has been a huge amount of political reaction. Let's go through some of that now. The Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, of course, a huge fan of Nigel Farage. He called the Reform UK leader a grifter and said that he knew he was heading towards a by-election and just pulled the trigger early. So there you got Zach Polanski saying there'd be a by-election anyway. That seems to be conjecture. The Standards Committee hadn't ruled or wasn't due to deliver until at least September. But that's Polanski's line, that Nigel Farage pulled the trigger early before the by-election was called. The Lib Dem leader, another huge fan of Nigel Farage, Sir Ed Davey, called the resignation a new stunt and said it was Nigel Farage's latest attempt to escape consequences for his biggest grift. Just go back over some of the scores on the doors. We'll have Sir John Curtis on the show later on to look at the numbers. The likelihood, Liberal Democrats can bang on all they like. At present, they have a 1% chance of winning Clacton. The Green Party, similarly, between a 1 and 0% chance of winning. So making a lot of noise from the sidelines. Get back now to College Green and join our man Chris Hope, our political editor. Chris, who have you grabbed for us now, mate? What a story.
Well, quite right. We're hoping to see maybe Lee Anderson on the channel in a few moments. We're going to have the Tories speaking to us, Liberal Democrats. We're trying to get a Labour voice too. We're trying to make sure we cover all bases in this dramatic moment, this battle in Clacton, a showdown in Clacton, forgive me, this summer, when Nigel Farage has now said he will be seeking to resign as the MP for Clacton. They want to have this by-election in coming weeks or months. It won't be a lot of time before they have it. Lee Anderson, of course, is the party's chief whip. He might know more about timing and when this will take place. So far, all we know is that Restore Britain, run by, of course, that enemy of Nigel Farage, the two men do not get on, Rupert Lowe, he says they will stand a candidate in Clacton. We don't know if the other parties will do so. This really is a chance here by Nigel Farage. He's saying to the other parties, you have a chance now to stop me in my tracks, kick me out of politics for good. Anyone but Farage, bring it on. That's what he's saying to the establishment. As things stand, no one in the other parties, in the big parties, are standing. I've got a statement in the past few moments to give to you from Andy Burnham, the man who would be Labour leader probably next Friday, and then, of course, Prime Minister the Monday after that. I'm going to find it on my phone, but he's making very clear they are dismissing this as a gimmick, which suggests to me they may well not stand. So a spokesman for Andy Burnham says this is a gimmick designed to distract from serious allegations about Farage's funders. What really matters in politics is how we can change Westminster to take power for communities and bring it back to people to make life more affordable for them. Of course, I would say elements of that is what Nigel Farage would say he's in politics for, but as things stand, the future leader of the Labour Party, a week Friday, expected to be Andy Burnham, he is saying this is a gimmick. Now, heard similar language from Ed Davey. That suggests that Labour may not want to take on that battle, but we do know there will be a contested by-election.
Chris, I need to interrupt you. Chris, I need to interrupt you, Chris, because Kemi Badenoch has just issued a tweet. She said this: I'll make a statement on Nigel Farage's hissy fit resignation at 3:35. So in about 5 minutes' time, Chris Hope, we're expecting Kemi Badenoch. There is that tweet on screen. It went out just 6 minutes ago. Kemi Badenoch saying, I will make a statement on Nigel Farage's hissy fit resignation at 3:35 p.m. So 5 minutes away, we'd expect Kemi Badenoch to bite back, Chopper.
Yeah, she's appearing on stage at an event called Playbook Live. This is the political website. They're hosting an event, and at 3:30 p.m, Kemi Badenoch is being interviewed by Anne McElvoy, the veteran political journalist. So we'll try and bring you that footage if we can get it. Again, 3:30 p.m, Playbook Live, a political event. We'll be hearing from Kemi Badenoch. So whatever she says will be interesting. I'm expecting to speak to one of our key front benchers, Alex Burkhardt, just after 4 o'clock. He often stands in Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Questions. He's an important voice because we have to work out what we're looking at here. As things stand, the Clacton by-election will be a battle between two right-wing parties, Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe, and of course Nigel Farage himself. Rupert Lowe himself, he can't stand. He's the MP for Greater Yarmouth. As things stand, he's not resigning as an MP for that seat, so we don't expect Rupert Lowe to be battling with Nigel Farage. That would be possibly too much for my blood pressure in this hot weather, but we are expecting Restore Britain to park a candidate against Reform. Yeah. I think some of this language from the other parties is a bit insulting to Nigel Farage. He talked at length about the pressure on his family, about his family being under threat, about having a pub meal ruined by protesters. I think that was back in 2015, because I've known about that for a number of years, but we don't talk about it to avoid adding any pressure on Nigel Farage and his family and the protection required for them. But to call it a hissy fit by Kemi Badenoch slightly underplays the fact that Nigel Farage is facing people who want to murder him, kill him, do him harm, I would say, and maybe a fair reader might agree with that. And also you've got similar language, a gimmick. I think that's overlooking, frankly, some of what Nigel Farage said, which was deeply disturbing. The fact that people are wishing harm to any of our democratic leaders is not something to be taken lightly, Martin.
Yeah, Nigel Farage said in that speech, for over 20 years I've been attacked again and again and again. I'm the most physically and verbally attacked politicians in modern times. But let me promise you, you only know about a fraction of those events. In my village pub, about 50 of the mob came in, surrounded the car. The car was written off. And I get daily murder threats, which don't seem to bother the police. And he ran up substantial bills. And yeah, Kemi Badenoch, they're saying it's all a hissy fit. And they're saying he's a grifter from the Lib Dems and the Green Party. It doesn't seem that Farage's serious message was on receive mode by them. But Chris, we'll come back to you later in the show as this breaking news story no doubt develops. Chris? Oh no, we lost Chris there. Let's get now to my next guest. We'll have Chris Hope throughout the rest of the show. That's the political strategist Pablo Ohana. Pablo, welcome to the show. What's your immediate reaction to this dramatic calling of a by-election in Clacton by Nigel Farage this afternoon?
Well, in our industry, this is what we call a marmalade dropper. Not many people saw this coming, and he is certainly framing this as sort of people versus the establishment. I think in reality, if you want to be an MP, you do need to face a scrutiny. Nobody should be facing threats or any kind of political violence. That is not how we do politics in this country. But I do think that, you know, it's right to say that he was several steps away from a recall petition he couldn't control anyway. So I do think it's possible he might have just kind of jumped before he was pushed, and he's kind of dressing us up as courage. Not the best news for Andy Burnham. He's going to have to be dealing with all of this in his kind of, you know, first few weeks in number 10. The framing from the other parties you were just talking there about, the hissy fit and the kind of self-indulgent nature of the statement. I do think it is interesting, given that Burnham was being attacked by Reform, only a week ago for not taking questions, and then Farage just done exactly the same thing, a pre-recorded statement with no questions. It did, I'm afraid to say, it did sort of feel like a sort of an Olympic-winning sort of self-indulgent diatribe, people's revolution launched by pre-recorded video. I don't know how well that's going to go down, but it certainly has injected some more life into an already pretty lively British political moment.
So you think that the fact Nigel Farage mentioned he receives daily murder threats, the fact that his daughter's address was published, the house was photographed, he saved particular scorn for the editor of the Sunday Times for doing that. He said, they're saying I'm angry. I've never been angrier in my life because of the fact that happened. Nigel Farage clearly has personal security issues. If you see him around the studio here, he has to be surrounded by a ring of steel of former servicemen who put their lives on the line. So it's a serious business, Pablo. And it just seems to be being treated by political rivals today as it's a hissy fit, Olympic level self-indulgence, as you just said, a grifter from the Green Party. This is a stunt from the Liberal Democrats. I mean, is there anything Nigel Farage can say to make his political opponents take these threats seriously? Or do you just think it's some sort of cover story?
No. The threats are serious, and there is zero place for political violence in our country. Full stop. No ifs, no buts. That's the end of it. I do think we need to be careful, given that within recent memory, we have had 2 MPs murdered. So I think, we need to be careful when he says things like, I'm the most attacked MP. Well, 2 have died. So, it's not a joke. It's not something to take lightly at all. But I think he needs to kind of measure how he delivers things as well.
I don't think, look, two MPs have died. Isn't that the point? And I guess Nigel Farage's point would be that, he is consistently under a lot of threat. He has more security than any other parliamentarian, more than the Prime Minister, and that's a necessity. And, it's not a competition. This is not a competition that Nigel Farage wants to win. Can I just say,
no, of course,
a statement, Pablo, just need to click across you again. Sorry, Nigel Farage just posted on X. Bear with me, I'll come back to you in a moment's time. And it's this: I've spoken to the CEO of Tendring District Council, and Reform has offered to cover the cost of the by-election. There we go. I'll be writing to Rachel Reeves later today with the same message. Now, given that we asked for this by-election in the first place, it's only right that we pay for it. So, Pablo, let's get your reaction to that, because, of course, one of the criticisms that came out was that it's thick end of £250,000 to pay for a by-election. And Nigel Farage, Reform UK, just saying here they're offering to cover the cost in full.
Yeah, and of course that was one of the same criticisms of what Andy Burnham did. And, you know, we're about to have a by-election in Greater Manchester, which is going to cost us around £5 million. So, you know, that he's reading the room. And that is one thing that you always have to give Nigel Farage. He's normally pretty good at reading the room. I think that's why the last kind of 2 weeks or so have been quite a shock, because he has been quite touchy. He has been, you know, uncharacteristically irritable in the media.
Okay, Pablo,
and not his
I'm
usual...
sorry, I have to interrupt again. Kemi Badenoch is reacting to this news. Let's go to Kemi Badenoch.
Pressure. He went on telly having a hissy fit because for the first time he is finally having to face some scrutiny after a very long honeymoon, and he cannot handle it. All of us MPs have to register our donations. We have to register our gifts. Nobody is above the law. He decides that he doesn't want to do what everyone else has to do, that he's better than everybody, and now there's an investigation. There should not be a by-election on his terms. What there should be is a by-election if the investigation finds him guilty. Those are the rules. No one else has tried to break those rules except Nigel Farage. He is a man who is cracking under pressure. That's why he was shouting at journalists yesterday. And what we have to ask ourselves is this someone who can do the top job? He hasn't become prime minister yet, and he's already cracking under the pressure.
But he clearly believes that his standoff over funding, essentially over the way that has been investigated, he's said that he feels essentially he's been picked on. There's parts of the media that are gunning for him. That's not a feeling you would ever understand.
No.
Yeah, he seems to feel this very intensely, and he wants to take it to the voters in Clacton as a sort of higher authority. And go with me. But in that case, if he wins, and he may win handsomely, it will look like he took the daring, unorthodox move and won.
No. Let's be honest. The thing he should do is answer some questions. He should man up and answer some questions. He hasn't had a press conference since these scandals broke, whether about George Cotterill at the weekend or the extremely dodgy £5 million gift, which he got for reasons that he cannot explain. He should come out and answer those questions. Instead, he's hiding, saying they're out to get me. This is paranoia. Nobody's out to get him. I remember when Starmer had his freebie scandal, when Boris Johnson had Partygate. Everybody in public life has to answer difficult questions. He thinks that he doesn't need to answer that. And what's going to happen is the poor voters in Clacton having to fight 2 by-elections. They already get a chance to have their say, in fact, twice, with the recall petition and then with a by-election, which only happens if the Standards Committee finds him guilty. And basically, in doing this, what he is saying is that he's already guilty. It feels like an admission of guilt. He should have come out, acknowledged that he'd done something wrong, said sorry, and everybody would have moved on. Instead, he doesn't want to do that. We're now having another man's ego by-election, just as we had in Makerfield, a by-election about one person's ego, one person's job.
Didn't work out too badly for the guy who won in Makerfield.
Well, we also had another by-election that day in Aberdeen South, which was about thousands of people's jobs all across the country. That's what matters. We are seeing so many people who don't want to govern, but just want to campaign and have elections. The Prime Minister is at NATO today. He is retiring. The Defence Investment Plan is not funded. We have Russia dropping sonar weapons by British warships. Nigel Farage doesn't even have a defence spokesman. What's he doing? They're not serious. We need to start focusing on the fact that the Defence Secretary resigned, saying the country is unprotected, rather than shrug shoulders and just have more and more by-elections.
We will move on, but did you just let us know that will the Tories be definitely standing a candidate in Clacton against Nigel Farage? What your early thoughts, or who might have that pleasure?
I don't need to respond to what is one man's gimmick. This is a gimmick. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. He doesn't want to follow due process. He'll find out what we do when the time is right. I don't need to jump to Nigel Farage's to the beat of Nigel Farage's drum. And what we're actually seeing is the first time the press aren't giving him a free ride, he is cracking up. This is a man who threatened, he basically threatened the press yesterday, talking about Levson. I think that's extraordinary. what's he actually going to do if we give him power? A free press is one of, the foundational values of this country. I don't like it when people write mean things about me in the press. Are you listening, Politico, by the way? I don't like it.
I feel I have occasionally received those messages.
But it's part of the job. You deal with it. If you put yourself up for public office in this country, we know what kind of press we have, then you have to be able to deal with it. If he cannot deal with this now, how is he going to deal with the real problems that turn up when you're Prime Minister?
Right, but you will tell us at some point you're going to stand a candidate or not. There are some precedents. David Davis was one way back in the day where parties have just decided to stand one candidate against.
Well, what I'm focused on right now, and I've set my team on it, is how to make sure that we avoid wasting taxpayers' money with 2 by-elections, and we're exploring every avenue. So until that's decided, I'm not saying anything about what's happening in Clacton. There should not be a by-election when the Standards Committee has not ruled. And the fact is, this doesn't even stop the ruling. It doesn't stop the ruling. It just pauses it, perhaps, at best. It's still going to happen. So he can run as much.
Wow, that's Kemi Badenoch there, absolutely steaming into Nigel Farage in central London at a Politico event, but she would not confirm whether the Conservatives will stand the candidate or not, saying, I will not move to the beat of Nigel Farage's drum. But anyway, let's get straight back now to College Green. Our political editor, Chris Hope, I believe, is there with Lee Anderson. Over to you, Chris.
That's right, Martin. You heard there, Kemi Badenoch won't say if the Tories will stand a candidate. They're calling it a hissy fit, a gimmick. With me, someone who might respond to that is Lee Anderson, the party's chairman and chief whip. Lee Anderson, a hissy fit and a gimmick.
I think this just proves, Chopper, that the Tories are running scared. They know they will probably lose their deposit in Clacton. They had a poor showing last time. Bear in mind, this should have been and was a safe Tory seat, and I think Nigel had one of the biggest swings at the last general election. I think Kemi's running scared. It's not an easy fit. There's a fine line between the upset that Nigel felt over the past few days, few weeks, and that's sort of boiled over into a little bit of anger as well. When the mainstream media start targeting your family, they cross the line then, and that's what they've done. I mean, the whole of that place has been against Nigel since day one. That's increased over the past 2 years. It's got to a point now where Nigel's sort of said, you know what, it's not up to the blob, it's not up to Westminster, it's not up to the mainstream media to decide on what his fate is. It's up to the people of Clacton, and I'm sure they will turn out in thousands to re-elect Nigel at the next by-election.
And if so, what actually changes? So the investigation into the £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, that is paused until he gets back into Parliament. It carries on. There could be a second by-election if he wins this one, because the MPs could vote for further sanction.
Well, if there's a second by-election, that will make a complete mockery of that place over there. I mean, it is a bit of a laughing stock at the moment, Chopper. I mean, I go there every day. And the public are getting more and more fed up with that place. So this is a chance, like I said just now, for the people of Clacton to decide who they want as their Member of Parliament. It's not up to that place there. It's not up to Kemi Badenoch or Andy Burnham or whoever's going to be the next Prime Minister. It's up to the people of Clacton. Let them decide.
But they thought Nigel Farage was their MP when they voted for him in numbers in July last year. How will this work? How soon can the by-election be? Because you can move the writ, you're the party in charge.
Hopefully I can move the writ tomorrow in the Commons. That's up to the Treasury, that's up to Rachel Reeves. The letter's been sent in, we've had confirmation, and I know Nigel spoke to the Treasury within the last hour. Hopefully I can move that writ tomorrow if they come back to us, and then we're looking at the first couple of weeks in August.
So the first 2 weeks of August?
Yeah, first 2 weeks in
Breaking news on GBNews, first 2 weeks of August, the battle for Clacton.
Hopefully, that's if Rachel Reeves pulls her finger out, gets it signed off and sends it back.
Now what on earth is this idea that Reform UK might pay for a by-election? How can... That's because it will cost £230,000. It's not required. There's money quite short in the public exchequer. So if Reform UK pays for the by-election, how would that work? Why would there be a fair election?
Well, look, I mean, there's going to be a lot made of this by-election, Chopper, and a lot of people will start bleating on. Some of these low-level politicians will start bleating on about the cost of a by-election. You say 230.
It's our money. It's not bleating. It's our money, Lee Anderson.
Let me explain. Don't stop being so rude, Chopper. Butting in, as you always do on this channel. We will cover the cost of the by-election. We will send a cheque to the Treasury. Simple as that.
And how will you? So you're still run by the Electoral Commission. It's still run in a fair way.
Well, look, I mean, the by-election will be run by the local council in Clacton. They'll have to pay for it, and then they normally claim the money back from the Treasury, from the government, and we will make an offer to reimburse the Treasury the full cost of the by-election. We couldn't be fairer than that, Chopper, could we?
Okay.
Unless you want to pay for it.
The answer: I can't afford to pay for that.
It's a year's salary, Chopper.
not for me. Thank you for joining us. Sorry if I butted in. You know, I'm always meaning it in a good way, trying to get the best answers from a politician who talks a bit too much sometimes. Back to you, Martin.
I would have thought Chris Hope's annual salary might just about cover the tea and sandwiches. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Chris Hope, live from College Green with Lee Anderson. Now then, let's get to the pollster and the Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, Sir John Curtis. Sir John, thank you for waiting patiently in the wings. I was so keen to get your take on this today. It's an incredible gamble by Nigel Farage. When you look at the scores on the doors, the metrics of Clacton, is it a gamble that's likely to pay off?
Probably, but it's not without risk. I mean, given that Nigel Farage had an 18-point majority back in July 2024, even if Labour and the Conservatives do fight the constituency, and given that Reform is still much more popular than they were back in 2024, this ought to be a by-election that Mr Farage is able to win fairly comfortably. And in a sense, I think that's almost undoubtedly one of the reasons why he resigned. There are some risks, however. One is very clearly, I think Rupert Lowe, the leader of Restore Britain, will regard this as another opportunity to give his party a higher profile. And of course, if indeed Labour and the Conservatives don't stand in the constituency, Restore Britain will in effect be the principal opponents to Nigel Farage, and that will give them publicity. The second risk, I think, is that almost undoubtedly journalists will expect him to be able to answer questions about the support from Mr Cottrell, about that from Mr Harborne. After all, the reason why he's resigned and held this by-election is in order to defend his position on those issues. So he therefore might be reasonably expected to be able to address them, and therefore we'll have to see how well he is able to do that. So it's not without risk, but I think the truth is certainly he's managed to steal the political limelight once again. He's going to be holding a by-election in August when things are fairly quiet. It's just a question at the end of the day of just how big a by-election will prove to be. The last time I can remember somebody resigning in order to refight the seat, it's Davis back in 2008. When he was concerned about what Parliament was doing, overextending the length of time people could be held without being charged. And in fact, on that occasion in 2008, the principal parties didn't stand against him. And to that extent, at least, his tactic didn't really necessarily achieve what he was hoping to achieve.
So, John Curtis, can I quickly get your take on the breaking news line? The £230,000 cost of this by-election. Reform UK have said they will write a cheque and pay that in full. Now, that might neutralise the criticism of the cost of this by-election, but do you think it might send out a message to some in the electorate? Maybe they're trying to buy the election. What's your take on what an extraordinary move?
It is an unusual move, and of course it contrasts with the fact that the Treasury is certainly paying for the cost of the Makerfield by-election, which was voluntarily resulted of MP resigning, and of course now the Greater Manchester Morality by-election. I think it's a good publicity stunt. I'm not sure it has much more importance than that.
Yes, John Curtis, thank you very much for your time. I always appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on the show today. And I'm joined in the studio now by the Conservative Councillor for Westminster, Elliot Keck. Elliot, welcome to Westminster. Wow! The cat's been put amongst the pigeons. Kemi Bailey, a short moment ago, described it as a hissy fit.
Yeah, and listen, I have to say I'm not particularly impressed. I can understand his grievances. It's very difficult being a frontline politician having that level of scrutiny, but that is the job that he chose. He claims he wants to be the Prime Minister, and so he should expect that level of scrutiny. And I think, listen, Nigel said something really interesting during the press conference, actually. He complained about the lack of attention that's being paid to Andy Burnham, the fact that we have this new Prime Minister without a mandate, without a plan, without even a cabinet coming in the next couple of weeks. And yet half of Westminster and, of course, the whole of Reform UK is now going to be focused on a by-election, on a complete sideshow, on a stunt, while I suppose it will be left to the Conservative Party, as it always has done, to be the main focus of scrutinising this government and this Labour administration.
The best way to scrutinise Nigel Farage is to stand a candidate. when Kemi Badenoch was asked by Politico a short moment ago, she wouldn't even confirm whether the party's standing or not. She said, I don't need to move to the beat of Nigel Farage. Why don't just say, yes, we'll stand the candidate and we'll beat Nigel Farage. Just go for it. What are you scared of?
Listen, I mean, it's obviously not my decision. That's taken way higher up. But listen, as I said, it is a political stunt, this, from Nigel Farage. There is the focus of the leader of the opposition, the focus of the opposition should be making sure we hold this awful, terrible government to account. And of course, in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be a completely new government. And bearing in mind, pretty much the only thing we know about Andy Burnham is that he's going to bring in this number 10 of the North, a complete stunt, a complete piece of irrelevant symbolism. We know nothing else about his plans. We don't know who his chancellor is going to be, his foreign secretary, his home secretary. We don't know anything about this man's plan. He wasn't elected on a manifesto. And so the role of scrutinising that government and holding them to account is an absolutely enormous one. Okay. And it is disappointing that Reform are going to spend their time on a stunt.
OK, back to this, what you call a stunt. Lee Anderson, a short moment ago, just said the Tories are running scared of Nigel Farage. I mean, it's quite simply, if the Conservatives think Nigel Farage deserves to get kicked out, stand against him and beat him.
I mean, listen, that's up for the Privileges Committee to work out. I mean, it's if the Privileges Committee rules that he's broken the rules and he's eligible for a recall petition, then that's one thing. But they haven't yet. He's just decided to take this of his own accord. As I said, it is a political stunt, and it will distract from the necessary work of scrutinising the new government.
Just going to momentarily interrupt you because Sir Keir Starmer has just reacted to the news that Nigel Farage has resigned as a Member of Parliament for Clacton. Let's take a listen.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage. And it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Politics should be about improving the lives of millions of people, not about personal gain, not about hiding dodgy donations. And I think the public will see this for exactly what it is.
There we go. That's Sir Keir Starmer reacting, calling it a desperate stunt by a man up to his neck in sleeves. Bit rich, Eddie Gack, a desperate stunt has seen the end of Sir Keir Starmer, stabbed in the back by Andy Burnham.
Yeah, listen, I certainly wouldn't listen to anything that the Prime Minister says, obviously. As I said, we have this issue that, I mean, listen, we didn't really know what Keir Starmer was going to do when he became Prime Minister, given how light that manifesto was. But at least we had something to go on. We were able to point out, for example, that when he increased national insurance, he was breaking a manifesto promise. When he increased brought in the family farm tax, he was breaking a promise to the farmers. We had something to scrutinise him on. Andy Burnham, we have no idea. But this man, you know, there's a joke told about Andy Burnham that a Corbynite, a Brownite and a Blairite walks into the bar and the bartender says, hello, Andy. You know, we have no idea what this man stands for. We have no idea what makes his political weather.
Elliot, let's get back to something that Nigel Farage said today. And I have to say, I think everyone, the Prime Minister, has just dismissed it. Kemi Badenoch dismissed it as a stunt, a desperate stunt there from the Prime Minister. Ed Davey has dismissed it. Zach Polansky has dismissed it. Nigel Farage talked about how his safety is under attack like no politician who's alive. He gets daily murder threats. His family is being hounded. He was especially scornful towards Sky News, towards the Sunday Times that published a photograph of the house where his daughter lived. I will not tolerate any of my family being endangered. Am I angry? I've never been angrier in my life. And all of this just seems to be brushed aside by political parties. Like, what does it take for the Conservatives, for the Liberal Democrats, for the Greens, for Nigel Farage's political opponents to say, actually, it's really not good that he's getting this level of grotesque threats?
Listen, I don't know the details of his specific security predicament, what the arrangements are. I mean, I know that the Parliament said that they weren't going to give him extra cash. I personally don't see any issue with providing Nigel Farage the level of security that does match his status. I mean, he is obviously just a single MP, but there is a level of status that comes with their polling position. I think that would be something that, I would be more than fine to see if he had increased level of security and if that was funded by the taxpayer. But that is a slightly separate issue to what is happening here, which is that he's unhappy with the level of scrutiny he's facing, and he's engaging in what is just one massive vanity project in order to distract from it.
Or is it putting it to the people? It's not, and Lee Anderson said, it's not Kemi Badenoch who decides who runs the country. It's not the mainstream media. It's not that place over there. It's not the blob. It's the people of Clacton. Isn't this the ultimate? Let the people decide.
Well, he was elected in 2024. There'll be another election in 2028, 2029.
But presumably you'd have been happy if a false election came about, so why not this one?
Is it the case, every single time an MP has a difficult question to answer, they just go to a by-election and suddenly that question is irrelevant and that question can be ignored? Even if the people of Clacton do re-elect Nigel Farage, which, listen, I'd imagine they would. I can't see any... I would assume that he would be the favourite in that. Nevertheless, questions around how he is being funded, questions who he associates with, should still be relevant, given he is not just aiming to be the MP for Clacton, Martin. This man is very much claiming that he wants to be the Prime Minister, and therefore there is a national level of scrutiny that should come with that as well.
Elliot Keck, thanks, Gunnar. We have to deal with there. Plenty more reaction to the astonishing news. Nigel Farage has resigned as the MP for Clacton and has triggered a by-election which Reform UK have offered to pay for. That's next here on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M60 anti-clockwise is closed between junction 24 at and junction 23 near Stockport. There is a collision causing slow traffic on the M6 southbound near Coventry. The A610 eastbound is closed after the M1 junction 26 near Nottingham. The M4 westbound near Slough has a stranded vehicle causing delays. The M4 westbound near Almondsbury has a lane closure with slow traffic. In Scotland, the A75 eastbound exit slip at Gretna is closed due to roadworks. And on the trains, there is major disruption on cross-country and southwestern railway services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Wow, what a day in politics, and we're just getting started. Very good afternoon, it's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. There's only one story in town. Here's what it is.
Today, I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
This afternoon, Nigel Farage has dramatically announced that he will trigger a by-election by formally resigning as a Member of Parliament in an attempt to defy his political opponents amid a string of stories about financial support he has received. And the Reform UK leader, though, will stand in the forthcoming by-election and insist the fresh poll will be a people versus the establishment by-election, your chance to flick them two fingers. And throughout the show, we'll have all the very latest news, debates and analysis to this astonishing revelation here from the heart of Westminster. And that's all coming up in your next hour. A chance to stick two fingers up to the entire establishment. That's what Nigel Farage said. He said he's never been angrier about the level of media scrutiny. Photographs of his daughter's house being published in the Sunday Times. Sky News, he said, have been hounding. It's been dismissed by Kemi Badenoch as a stunt. Sir Keir Starmer has responded in the past few moments, calling it a desperate stunt from a politician up to his neck in sleaze. Zach Polanski dismissed Mr Farage as a grifter. Ed Davey similarly doing the same. But when you look at the scores on the doors, Clacton is the 7th safest seat in all of the United Kingdom. Nigel Farage, at present, looks destined to win that seat. But the gamble could backfire. We'll have full analysis throughout the rest of this show today on what is already an astonishing day in Westminster and in British politics. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But at last, it's news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. Your headlines at 4:02. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has announced he will quit as an MP for Clacton, triggering a by-election which he has vowed to fight in.
Today, I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Mr Farage revealed the news during a statement about the future of his public life following scrutiny over financial support given to him. The Reform UK leader said he has not broken the law in any way at all, adding he had not misused public money. Scrutiny over Farage's finances began earlier this year after it emerged he'd received a £5 million gift from a Thailand-based British cryptocurrency investor in April of 2024 before he entered Parliament. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has responded in the last few minutes, calling it a desperate stunt, saying it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has also responded to the news in the last half hour, saying Farage is cracking under pressure, but she refused to say if the Tories will stand a candidate. Andy Burnham, who is expected to become the next Prime Minister, called it a gimmick to distract from serious allegations about funders. Elsewhere, Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe has responded to the news in the last hour, saying, I'll be making an announcement later today about Restore Britain's plans for the Clacton by-election. Elsewhere, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey called for Nigel Farage to fund the by-election himself, which Reform UK has now offered to do. And Green Party leader Zach Polanski has accused Mr Farage of trying to con the public with this stunt. Prince Harry has lost his High Court privacy case against the Daily Mail. The Duke of Sussex and 6 other defendants, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Lawrence, had sued Associated Newspapers Limited for unlawful information gathering, but the High Court has today dismissed the claims. Associated Newspapers called it an overwhelming victory and a magnificent vindication of the Daily Mail's journalism. The Duke of Sussex has arrived at Chatham House for the first in a series of week-long events celebrating his Invictus Games ahead of the ruling. Moments after the ruling, Prince Harry, who is taking part in the Foundation conversation today, gave a speech at the event, but he didn't mention the outcome. It all comes as Harry's accommodation arrangements for his UK visit descended into chaos ahead of the 5-day appearance. The Duke will not stay at Buckingham Palace during his return, with his spokesperson saying it was disappointing the offer from the King had been withdrawn at the last moment. Sir Keir Starmer has landed in Ankara for the NATO summit. It could be a different summit for Starmer after the US warned allies they're not spending enough on defence. However, officials pointed to a £15 billion boost to defence spending in the last week's defence investment plan, saying the Prime Minister would use the summit to demonstrate how we're turning the pledges into action. US President Donald Trump, who landed earlier today, has his growing criticism continues to strain the 77-year-old alliance. Speaking before the summit, Mr. Trump expressed his disappointment in Sir Keir Starmer's lack of support, he said, during the Iran war.
And they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, "No, we'll help after the war is over." I said, "I don't need that kind of help." We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
A murder investigation has been launched after a mother and her 2 children were found dead at a home in Bedfordshire. Police were called on Monday over concerns for 3 people who had not been seen for several days. And when officers forced entry into the property in Great Denham, they found the bodies of a woman and 2 children. Bedfordshire police said they have identified a suspect who was known to all 3 victims and who they believe has now left the country. A French appeals court has cleared the way for Marine Le Pen to run in the 2027 presidential election, but with an electronic tag. It comes after she was found guilty of misusing public funds. A fine of over £74,000 is confirmed and 3 years of imprisonment, with 2 suspended and 1 year with an electronic bracelet. Those are your headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Sophia. Huge breaking news here in Westminster today. In this past hour, Nigel Farage has announced that he will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering an historic by-election that he will stand in as the candidate.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election, which should happen, I hope, in short order. No, I've decided that the people of Clacton should be the judges of my actions. This will be a people versus the establishment by-election. It's a chance to stick 2 fingers up to the entire establishment, to frankly tell them where to go. And that is why I will be putting my name forward to stand in this by-election. I will fight to win. I will fight to continue the political revolution that reform has started. And I would say this to you, the voters of Clacton: if I win, you win. Because if I lose, they win. And we will never, with the 2 old parties, get the type of fundamental change that we need to fix broken Britain.
Well, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he's in Turkey at a NATO summit, but he's been forced to react to the news from Nigel Farage. Here it is.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage, and it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Politics should be about improving the lives of millions of people, not about personal gain, not about hiding dodgy donations, and I think the public will see this for exactly what it is.
Up to his neck in sleaze, says the Prime Minister, brought down by the Mandelson scandal, by the Free Keir scandal and many, many others. Now, GB News' political editor Chris Hope joins us now from College Green in Westminster. Chris Hope, what an almighty revelation. The cat, certainly amongst the pigeons. I believe now you have a Conservative MP you're going to cross-examine for us.
Yeah, that's right, Martin. It's a hot day in Westminster. It's got a lot hotter since Nigel Farage said he would resign as the MP for Clacton, triggering a by-election. He wants to take on the establishment. He bills it as the people versus the establishment. The question is, what will those establishment parties, if you like, do? With me now is Alex Burkhardt, the shadow Cabinet Office Minister who often deputises PMQs with Kemi Badenoch. Will you stand a candidate against Nigel Farage, Alex Burkhardt?
This by-election shouldn't be happening, Chopper. Everybody knows it. There's due process. Nigel Farage is being investigated because he took millions of pounds from someone without declaring it. You know, that, quite frankly, that stinks. And there's a process by which you're investigated, and if you're found to have done something wrong, then there might be a by-election after that. And the fact that he's gone into these histrionics today to try and, you know, mess around with that process, I'm starting to think that he's just not very good under pressure. Like, you know, you've seen his very erratic behaviour over the past few weeks. Hasn't turned up to take questions, hasn't held press conferences, has shouted at journalists when they've tried to ask him questions, and then this kind of weird hissy fit today. I don't think that's regular behaviour.
You're saying hissy fit. He's shouting at journalists because people have been knocking on doors where his family are there. He's out of the country. Are you a father, Alex? You're a father.
Yeah, I am.
So how would you react if your family were knocked up in the same way?
You know what, Chopper? We all get a lot of press intrusion in our lives. This is no way to handle it. There's no way to handle it to sort of go out and have a press conference but not invite the press and call a by-election, which there's no need for right now when he's under investigation. Look, something is deeply wrong in the heart of reform. Something is deeply wrong with Nigel Farage. It's very clear to you and all of the other journalists here and all of the politicians here that this isn't right, okay? And this shouldn't be happening. This is very, very bad politics.
It is happening. He is going to resign. The writ will be moved tomorrow. Lee Anderson has told us. The by-election could be in the second week of August. As soon as that, will you stand the candidate?
Now, obviously, we will be talking about that internally, and you'll be one of the first people to hear when we've made that decision. It's not for me to decide; it'd be for Kenny to decide. So I can't tell you what our position will be just yet, but we'll know very soon. But this shouldn't be happening. And I tell you why, for people at home who might not understand the process. If Farage causes a proper by-election now, and say he gets re-elected, and then the investigation finds that he has broken the rules, there might have to be another by-election.
So there could be two by-elections.
There could be two by-elections. He should be waiting for the proper process to be gone through before any of this happens. He is playing everybody.
Okay.
This is utterly stupid.
It's a hot afternoon. Let's get a cool answer. Yes or no? Will the Tories stand a by-election?
I've already answered your question. You will find out later.
Why can't you say yes?
Because I'm not the leader of the party. It's for Kemi to decide, and when she's decided, you will hear.
But are you scared? You're scared that he's calling you?
I'm not scared of anything. We're not scared of anything. We're not scared of a man who appears to be losing it on national TV. Right? Nigel Farage is behaving incredibly erratically. He is, quite frankly, showing that he's not very good under pressure. That's what's happening here today.
Are you saying there's a mental health issue here? What do you mean by that?
No. I'm just saying that he seems very stressed out. He's behaving very unusually. He's shouting at journalists. He's not answering questions. That's wrong. This is democracy. We're elected politicians. You're supposed to open yourself up to be to answer the sort of questions that you're asking me now. So when was the last time he answered your questions, Chopper?
Goodness me!
You can't even remember.
Well, we always ask him questions. We came on Breakfast Show on the day of the Brexit anniversary. So he answered. We asked him then about the £5 million gift.
Yeah. And how did that? Did you get a satisfactory answer? You didn't, because he's changed his story over and over again. Why? Because he has something to hide, and that's why he's all agitated. That's why he's calling a by-election that we simply shouldn't be happening at this moment.
He seems to be triggered by the threats to, as he says to himself, the fact that some journalists knocked on his door, his family was there. Do you understand that?
You know that he's been incredibly snippy with journalists before that point. Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse for the way he's behaved.
So he's under pressure, and therefore he's lashed out with a by-election.
He's no good under pressure.
You're a shadow cabinet office minister. What do you make of the idea that Reform UK could pay for the by-election? Has that ever happened before? And if that happened, is that a reason not to stand in it?
I want to know where Reform UK is getting that money from. Where's it getting it? All of this dodgy money, if that dodgy money is going to be paying for a by-election, is that right? None of this. This whole thing stinks,
okay.
Right? This whole thing stinks.
Before you go, we went on what Kevin Badenoch says, of course. Is it likely that no one stands against Nigel Farage apart from Restore Britain?
Could happen.
Okay. Alex Burkhart, straight answer from a straight politician. Thank you for joining us there. Alex Burkhart there, the Shadow Cabinet Office Minister. Martin.
Wow, there we go. The Conservatives might not even stand a candidate, and they wouldn't answer the question if they'll stand or not. Why not? If you're so convinced Nigel Farage deserves to get his backside kicked, stand against him and help kick its backside. Chris Hope, thank you very much. We'll come back to you throughout the rest of the show. What is turning now into a dramatic day in Westminster. The temperature really rising. Let's now speak with the Independent MP, of course, former Labour Party MP for Hull East, and that is Carl Turner. Carl, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. You're a straight-talking man. What's your take on this incredible by-election that's been called today?
Good afternoon, Martin. Well, let's say politics is boring. It's not been boring in recent weeks and months, has it? Now, I think Nigel Farage is incredibly angry at the prospect of being investigated by the Commissioner for Standards, and indeed he raises complaints about press intrusion. I don't know whether he's right about that. I'm not going to challenge him on it, frankly. But I do think this is a little bit sort of trickery. He thinks he's pulled the rug from under the Commissioner for Standards, but of course any standards inquiry is temporarily suspended, and if Nigel Farage is re-elected, as I think he will be, that inquiry continues and there might well be a second by-election to come. So I'm not entirely sure why Farage has decided to do this. It's a matter for him. He's entitled to cause a by-election, but I do think it's sort of the type of trickery which starts to annoy members of the public, really.
But you were pretty happy, Carl, when Andy Burnham called a by-election because you wanted Keir Starmer stabbed in the back. You know, the Labour Party wanted the Prime Minister gone. You seemed quite happy about the by-election when you got the result you wanted there. So if it's good for the goose, surely it's good for the gander, Carl.
I was over the moon, but it was Josh Simmons who caused the by-election. He didn't stand as the candidate in the by-election. This is Farage.
But he's just been rewarded with the top job in the comms department. Come on, it was a nice seat for the chums.
This is Farage causing a by-election for Farage to be re-elected. It's a very different... Well, it's not entirely different, but it is different. But you're right to point to the contradiction. You can have politicians like me say, oh, well, that was different. I get it, Martin, but this is a little bit different, if I may say so. Simmons stood down in order to let Burnham in, frankly, to save the Labour Party. Because if we'd have carried on with Keir Starmer as the leader for much longer, the party would have been extinct, in my view. So he did a good thing. He'd done a bad thing, by the way, up to the run-up to that, apparently, because he was involved in the implication with Labour Together of investigating journalists for doing journalism, which I think was an outrage, frankly. However, it was a different thing to this. If Simmons was standing in his own by-election, I'd have criticised him. When David Davis stood in his own by-election in a constituency not far from me in East Yorkshire, I criticised him. I'll criticise Farage for this. The reality is, Martin, there'll be another by-election very, very likely in about 8 to 10 weeks following Nigel Farage's re-election as the MP for Clacton, because I think he'll win.
We don't know that, Carl. So we can't prejudge any investigation from the Standards Committee. So we can't prejudge that. So that's kind of, hyperbole, but that's what we all do. But let's just press the pause button on that. Let's talk about what Nigel Farage said. You were saying you were delighted that the by-election in Makerfield was a chance to save the Labour Party. Nigel Farage said today, this is a chance to stick up two fingers to the entire establishment. That includes Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, the mainstream media, the Blob, the Home Office, the teaching unions, the whole lot of them. And he said this is the last chance to save a broken Britain. So he would argue his reasons are equally as valid to call a by-election in Clacton as Andy Burnham's were in Makerfield.
Well, as I say, it wasn't Andy Burnham causing a by-election. It was Josh Simmons, the sitting MP. It is a different thing.
Come on, Carl. It was an inside job. They all knew what they were on about.
Well, of course I'd have stood down if I thought Andy Burnham could win East Hull and Burnham was interested in standing. Of course I would. I wanted him in to save the Labour Party. So you're right, Martin. We're not arguing about much here, but I do think this is potentially, and I say the reasons why, I'm not sort of second-guessing what a Commissioner for Standards inquiry might find, but the rules say if a Member of Parliament has been found wanting with the rules, there is a potential to suspend them from the House. If that suspension amounts to 10 days, that allows the possibility of a trigger in the constituency, providing 10% of the electorate decide they want an election, and then there's a by-election inevitably as a result. I'm saying Farage is potentially causing a by-election in the next few weeks from now, and potentially, if the Commissioner for Standards so rules, another by-election might likely follow. That's the truth.
Carl, the by-election that has been called, that we know about, looks like it's going to be in 4 or 5 weeks. Reform UK have got to table that writ tomorrow. Rachel Reeves needs to sign it off, of course. That's the next stage in that process. The Conservatives have been asked repeatedly today. Kemi Baynott was asked several times by Politico if they would stand. She wouldn't give an answer. She said instead, we won't march to the Nigel Farage's drums. And again, Alex Burkott there was probed by Chris Hope. He said at the end, we might not even stand the candidate. Do you think the Labour Party should stand in Clacton against Nigel Farage, or do you think they might stand away as well?
No, I don't think we should stand in this by-election. I think we should set it aside, leave it alone. I think if we do support a candidate of any sort, we should support a candidate of the sort of centre-left, an independent type, a Martin Bell type candidate, an anti-sleaze, if you like. This is the accusation. I'm not accusing Farage of being sleazy. That's a matter for the Commissioner for Standards, frankly. But this could be an anti-sleaze candidate standing. Lib Dems, the Labour Party, the Greens, and every other left of centre party stands aside, lets that independent candidate go head-to-head with Farage and let the punters decide. That's what I'd be doing if I was Andy Burnham or Keir Starmer. I'm getting confused, Martin. I don't know who's running my party. I don't think anybody is at the minute.
But, Carl, I mean, it's an interesting proposition, but might that feed into the thesis that Nigel Farage obviously likes to put forward, that you're all the same? The Uni Party, you'll all club together to do anything to keep him out of power. Kind of prove his point.
Well, I don't say the Tories should stand aside. I'm hoping they do stand. I want Restore Britain to stand as well. I want the right of politics to stand against Farage, split the vote, an independent candidate stand with the blessing of all the other centre-left parties, and finally get rid of Farage. That's my politics, Martin. I'm not going to apologise for it, but you know I say what I think, and I mean what I say.
Hey, Carl Turner, I get that. I appreciate your time as ever. And as you said, who said politics was boring? Not today, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Carl Turner, and always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Wow, it's really, really heating up now. Plenty to come throughout the rest of the show. Reaction, of course, to Nigel Farage dropping that political bombshell on Westminster, resigning as the MP for Clacton and triggering a by-election. He will stand. Reform UK will pay the electoral bill. But could the major parties now boycott the vote in what could be the most consequential and historical by-election, well, since Makerfield? This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to here at GB News. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has reacted to the news that Nigel Farage is standing in the by-election by saying Nigel Farage was trying to distract from the huge troubles he is currently in, and she suggested that Labour would stand a candidate in the Clacton by-election. But meanwhile, Rupert Lowe, of course, he's the leader of Restore Britain. He's announced that Restore Britain will not stand in the by-election in Clacton. He's just posted on X that they will stand in the second one, held later this year when the investigations into Farage's finances conclude, as we all suspect they will. We are not going to participate in a Reform-sponsored media circus over the summer months that is designed to puff up Farage's ego and deflect away from wholly fair questions over why he has concealed such vast and irregular financial donations. So we seem to have their confirmation that from Rupert Lowe that they will not stand in this first by-election. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, seems to suggest that the Labour Party, they, however, will stand. OK, let's get to my next guest now, and that's the political correspondent at the Financial Times, Anna Gross. Anna, welcome to the show. Nigel Farage, once again, has certainly dropped a bomb on Westminster. What's your reaction?
Well, yeah, it definitely came as a surprise to a lot of people, I think, and he played it cleverly, as he always does. No one's talking about the NATO conference that's taking place. Very few people are now talking about Andy Burnham and his plan for government. The attention is once again where he likes it to be, which is on Nigel Farage and the Reform Party and what their plans are. And you know, this comes at a point, of several weeks now of pretty challenging coverage and a lot of criticism of Farage and of gifts he's received from very rich benefactors as well as benefits. And there's been jitters in the party. I'm sure you've been reporting on it about, is he potentially going to stand down? Are we going to see a Burnham bounce and Reform sort of falling down in the polls? And this is a real opportunity for him to regain the narrative, regain momentum on terrain that he's very comfortable with, which is me and my party versus the establishment and the established media, the MSM, who are trying to bring me down.
Well, maybe, that's his shtick, that's his sell to the nation today. And he said, it won't be Kemi Badenoch who decides, it won't be the mainstream media, it won't be anybody in the Labour Party, it will be the people of Clacton. Anna, what's your take on the fact we're hearing the Conservatives, well, Alex Burkett seemed to indicate perhaps the Conservative Party shouldn't stand. Rupert Lowe and Restore won't stand, but Rachel Reeves seemed to indicate that the Labour Party will stand. If people stand candidates aside, how do you think that's going to pan out?
That's the $1 million question, right? If all of these other parties coalesce around one specific party, one specific candidate, I think that's their only opportunity of thwarting Nigel Farage's plan. But it's actually very, very hard to hard to imagine the Conservatives completely backing out and saying, like, we're going to hand this to Labour, for example. The Greens have come out and said, on background, we very much plan to run here. Not that they're a huge force, but if you've got a fragmented progressive vote and you've got the Tories picking up, 17, 18, 19% of the vote there, it's very, very likely that Farage, comes up trumps. And so, that it would require a huge amount of cooperation between parties that do not see eye to eye on a huge number of things, and potentially quite bad optics. The Conservatives and Kemi Badenoch are claiming that they've had a bit of a revival, they've had a bounce, people are coming back to them. If they then stand down and say we're not fighting this, it doesn't look great.
And it might look like that thing of the establishment coalescing around one candidate, kind of proving what Nigel Farage is saying as his thesis. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your time. As ever, political correspondent at the FT, and that is Anna Gross. Thank you very much indeed, Anna. Now, plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. Of course, an incredible reaction to the political bombshell dropped by Nigel Farage today, resigning as the MP for Clacton, triggering that historic by-election. But could the major parties actually boycott the vote? What an incredible political story. More on that throughout the rest of today's show. But first, here's your headlines from Sophia Wensler.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 4:31. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has announced he will quit as an MP for Clacton, triggering a by-election which he has vowed to fight in. Mr Farage revealed the news during a statement about the future of his public life following scrutiny over financial support given to him. The Reform UK leader said he has not broken the law in any way at all, adding he had not misused public money. Prince Harry has lost his High Court privacy case against the Daily Mail. The Duke of Sussex and 6 other defendants, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Lawrence, had sued Associated Newspapers Limited for unlawful information gathering, but the High Court has today dismissed the claim. A murder investigation has been launched after a mother and her 2 children were found dead at a home in Great Denham in Bedfordshire. Police said they have identified a suspect who was known to all 3 victims and who they believe has since left the country. The UK has entered its 3rd heatwave so far this year, with temperatures predicted to climb as high as 35 degrees in some parts of the country later this week. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The heatwave continues across the south and the heat is going to gently waft further north as we go into tomorrow. UV levels and in places pollen levels are very high at the moment. Quite a bit of cloud across northern Britain today, but that cloud is breaking up. Some evening sunshine across eastern Scotland and the east of Northern Ireland. Western Scotland keeps outbreaks of rain going through the night, but for most it's dry. Long clear spells across the south. Again, around some coasts, particularly in the southwest, it may stay a little misty and murky. Temperatures holding up, quite a warm night. May not get below 18 or 19 in the capital. Most places start Wednesday about 15 or 16. We'll start still with a fair bit of cloud across Scotland, particularly so in the west. Thick enough still for some showery rain at times here, particularly over the mountains. But some breaks to the east across Scotland, and the skies also showing signs of that cloud breaking up across Northern Ireland in the morning. Quite a bit of cloud to the west of the Pennines, again to the east and further south. Lots and lots of sunshine to come on Wednesday. Just the threat of a bit of mist at times along some of these eastern coasts. Through the day, not a great deal of change, but I think that cloud will break up more over Northern Ireland, western Scotland and northwest England to reveal some sunshine. Always the chance of 1 or 2 showers coming into the far northwest of Scotland. But otherwise, it's dry and it's hot in the south, 31, 32, maybe 33 Celsius, and further north that heat is pushing in, so a hotter day for the east of Northern Ireland, southern and eastern Scotland, getting into the low to mid-20s and high 20s over parts of northern England. So generally a hotter day across northern areas tomorrow. A balmy summer's evening for many. Wednesday evening stays clear. More sunshine to come, a bit more cloud at times still across Scotland, particularly into the weekend, but lots of sunshine, and it is going to be hot in the south. Temperatures widely into the low 30s, perhaps dropping off a bit for Saturday.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M60 anti-clockwise is closed between junction 24 at and junction 23 near Stockport. There is a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise near Slough. The A610 eastbound is closed after the M1 junction 26 near Nottingham. The M1 southbound near Loughborough has a lane closure. North of the border, the M8 eastbound between junction 19 at and junction 18 near Charing Cross has lane restrictions causing queues. And on the trains, there is major disruption on cross-country and southwestern railway services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:36. What a day in politics. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here in Westminster for you on GB News. Now, if you are just joining us, then earlier on today, Nigel Farage announced a political bombshell he dropped on Westminster, announcing he will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering an historic by-election that he will stand in as the candidate for Reform UK. But the news was not welcomed by outgoing Prime Minister Keir Starmer, speaking in Turkey at the NATO summit earlier today.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage, and it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Politics should be about improving the lives of millions of people, not about personal gain, not about hiding dodgy donations, and I think the public will see this for exactly what it is.
It's Keir Starmer there, a politician up to his neck in sleaze. Of course, he meant Nigel Farage, forgetting the Mandelson scandal and the free gear Keir scandal. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, criticised Nigel Farage's move.
Hiding, saying they're out to get me. This is paranoia. Nobody's out to get him. I remember when Starmer had his freebie scandal, when Boris Johnson had Partygate. Everybody in public life has to answer difficult questions. He thinks that he doesn't need to answer that. And what's going to happen is the poor voters in Clacton having to fight 2 by-elections. They already get a chance to have their say, in fact, twice, with the recall petition and then with a by-election, which only happens if the Standards Committee finds him guilty. And basically, in doing this, what he is saying is that he's already guilty. It feels like an admission of guilt. He should have come out, acknowledged that he'd done something wrong, said sorry, and everybody would have moved on. Instead, he doesn't want to do that. We're now having another man's ego by-election, just as we had in Makerfield, a by-election about one person's ego, one person's job.
Well, Kemi Badenoch, they're absolutely steaming into Nigel Farage. Let's now speak with the Director of Popular Conservatism UK. That, of course, is Mark Littlewood. Mark, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Wow, another quiet news day here in Westminster. But on a serious point, we now look to that by-election and who might stand or who might not stand against Nigel Farage. We asked Alex Burkett, and he seemed to indicate the Conservatives might not stand. Kemi Badenoch wouldn't be drawn on the notion of whether the Conservatives would field a candidate. And that seems to be gathering some critical mass on social media. Now, the story seems to be they might just leave Nigel Farage to stand on his own and not legitimise this by-election. That would be astonishing.
That would be astonishing. I mean, quite a lot of people, Martin, who want to see more unity on the right have been arguing that perhaps the Conservatives should stand down in some seats and reform in others. The Conservative Party has taken the view, absolutely not. We will put a candidate on a ballot paper everywhere to allow people to vote Conservative. Be pretty weird not to do that in Clacton-on-Sea against the leader of the Reform Party, in my view, to actually step aside effectively for Nigel Farage. Look, Nigel Farage has taken and I guess it's in his character, a very high risk, high reward, bold, brave, could work brilliantly, could backfire strategy here. And it comes down to who decides, doesn't it? You can read around, and most of it's in the public domain now, and the Sunday Times had a huge piece on his relationship with George Cottrell. You can read around it. But should the judge of Nigel Farage's behaviour and his finances be the electorate in Clacton, or the Standards Committee? And essentially what Farage is running on is that this is an establishment stitch-up. I have some sympathy with that point of view, Martin, because the rules around finances and politics are so ludicrously vague, so open to interpretation. I looked through them all on Sunday when the Sunday Times piece came out about Nigel Farage's finances. They are so open to interpretation that basically a judgment is going to be made by a discretionary committee. They even have in the rules, if in doubt, make sure that you record and report things. Well, really, a sensible set of rules would leave very, very little to doubt. So I think what Farage is going to do is to say the rules are pretty unclear. He doesn't believe he's broken any single one of them. He's going to put it to the electorate of Clacton. Now, let's say he wins, and that is the bookmakers' guess at the moment. He's the massive odds-on favourite. That will tighten still further, obviously, if there's no serious political party running against him. You would still see this Standards Commission process grind through at a snail's pace. The Standards Committee should be able to report in hours, if not in a few days. They shouldn't be moving at this snail's pace. You could have a second by-election in Clacton maybe in September. So it is extraordinary. Farage probably calculates that the Standards Committee will find against him, but that, in my view, does not necessarily mean that he's guilty. I think that in the same way that Boris Johnson was got at, Nigel Farage is being got at, but this could be the first of two by-elections in Clacton in the coming weeks and months, Martin. Absolutely extraordinary, biggest, boldest move from a party leader that I can ever remember.
And of course, that would precipitate that famous response, oh God, not another one. It could be another two, Mark Littlewood. But on a serious point, Nigel Farage did say today again, he said that the Standards investigating me has reared its head again. He said that the article was written by a journalist who openly despises me. This is the George Cottrell one in the Sunday Times, full of inaccuracies. And then he said the Standards is being used as a political tool. And this is the point. So his line is the establishment are out to get me. The Standards Committee is a part of that establishment. The mainstream media is a part of that establishment. The Labour Party and the Conservative Party as well, and certainly the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. And he's gone full Trump, hasn't he? He's basically said they're going to do everything they can to stop me, not by fair means and by foul. So let's put it to you, the electorate. Will the electorate buy that? Outside of Clacton, the broader electorate, is that something that has appeal, or as Kemi Badenoch says, is it a stunt?
Yeah, well, it can actually be both, Martin, right? I mean, the boring standard thing to do would be to wait for the Standards Commission report, however long that's going to take. Absolutely farcical, as I say, that these things can't be determined in a matter of minutes, hours, or a couple of days. Shows how complex and impenetrable these rules are, and rules as complex and impenetrable as this are not fit for purpose. I don't know what the people of Clacton will say, but what Nigel Farage is saying is that the decision should rest with them. Now, you mentioned, Martin, he's gone full Trump. Well, he's going to need to. I am unsurprised that Nigel Farage has been under this sort of fire. It is pretty much out of the playbook that was used against Donald Trump in the run-up to the last presidential election. It will continue. We thought that sort of every single aspect of Nigel Farage's life had already been brought to public attention because he's been such a well-known public figure and politician for so long, and a controversial one too. But no, every single thing in his background, every financial transaction, everything about his private life, this will be gone through with a tooth comb. I do think where I've got a little bit of sympathy for Kemi Badenoch's intervention here, my friendly advice to Nigel Farage is he probably should have sat down and explained all of this. Said, look, I've done nothing wrong here, but I just want to talk you through what my relationship with George Cottrell is, when I've used his house, why I've used it, why Chris Harborne gave me a gift for this amount of money. I don't want to go into full details because some of this is my private life, but let me clear it up for you. And I think that probably that would have been a better thing to do rather than it's the none of your business line.
OK, thank you very much, Martin Wood. Superb as ever. Thanks for your time today. Let's get back now to our man there in Westminster, our political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, over to you. You've got another guest for us.
No guest now, Martin. We're expecting to talk to the Liberal Democrats shortly. I've been struck, though, just to summarise where we are in the past dramatic an hour and 3/4. Nigel Farage is resigning as the MP for Clacton. Now, Lee Anderson has told us on this channel he expects the writ to move tomorrow for a by-election in Clacton. That could mean that the by-election is held in the second week of August. As things stand, no other party, Martin, is standing a candidate or says they'll stand a candidate against Nigel Farage. Alex Burkhart in the past half an hour, he's basically the de facto, I would say, number 2 to Kemi Badenoch in the Tory party. He says she will decide. She hasn't decided yet. Keir Starmer's called it a gimmick. Rupert Lowe initially, I thought, indicated he would be standing in that seat. Now says he won't because there could be a second by-election in the same seat if Nigel Farage is found to have fallen foul of House of Commons rules about this gift from Christopher Harborne, the crypto a billionaire maybe, a very rich man certainly. Carl Turner, the former Labour MP, he's told you on GB News, Martin, that maybe other parties should stand an anti-sleaze candidate, one who is supported by all the parties but not of one particular one. Similar thing happened back in 1997 when Martin Bell stood against Neil Hamilton in Tatton and won. Of course, back then the Tory party itself corporately was mired in sleaze. That isn't the case now, and in fact, no one's saying there's any sleaze allegations about Nigel Farage, but certainly that's what his opponents are trying to pin on him. So there could be an independent candidate, there could be no candidates. That happened in 2008 with David Davis, of course, when he resigned as the Tory MP for Holden, Price and Howden, and then stood again, but no one stood with him, and that became a bit of an ego trip for him. So this is not sure where this will go for now, but earlier, in fact, straight out of the traps, I spoke to Robert Jenrick. He, of course, is Nigel Farage's finance spokesman, and he gave us some of the reasoning behind Nigel Farage's shock decision here in Westminster today.
You've just heard a statement from the only true leader in this country right now, the only man who's got the courage of his convictions, who will fix this country, who bring about the radical change that the public actually want to see. And look, the people in the building behind me, the political establishment, the two old parties, or what remains of it, the media, they don't get to decide who runs this country. They don't get to play judge and jury and executioner. We live in a democracy. Nigel Farage is going to trust the people of Clacton and put himself forward in the by-election to come.
And there you have it. I mean, what will change is a question for Reform UK from this by-election. The answer is nothing. Nigel Farage expected to win it. In the past few moments, I can confirm he will face a candidate, Martin, in the by-election, Count Binface, of course, who fought in the Makefield by-election. He says he will fight the by-election. He says game on Nige. So it could be Nigel Farage versus Count Binface. We'll wait and see.
OK, thank you very much indeed there. Chris Hope joining us from the heart of the action in Westminster. Plenty more reactions to come as Nigel Farage has resigned as an MP for Clacton and has triggered an historic by-election. But could the major parties boycott the vote? What could be the consequences that come out of that? This is GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Pretty much wall-to-wall strong sunshine across the Mediterranean for this week. Very hot too in Spain and Portugal. That heat slowly easing. Pretty warm too in the Canaries. Light winds, lots of blue sky for Spain, Portugal, for Mallorca as well, and most of Italy. Small chance of 1 or 2 showers across the east. The odd shower inland across Greece as well, but most of the Greek islands dry and sunny. Plenty more blue sky to come through the rest of this week. Temperatures easing a touch in Spain.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
And it's Father's Day. I don't know if my dad's up yet.
If you are, happy Father's Day.
He's already texted.
Is he?
He's tuning in.
Mr. Reaper, good morning to you.
Sunday, well, speaking of Sunday lunches, he'll be having a roast pork joint later, courtesy of myself.
Good.
Cards and gifts are a big part of the day, of course, but it's also important to remember that there is more to it than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about one day, is it? Actually, it's like, what do dads do? And healthy fathers, a healthy sort of father-son, father-daughter relationship builds strong families, builds strong communities and helps build a strong country, actually.
Well, that is why mentoring the next generation matters more than ever. So take a little extra time today, make sure you do, to appreciate not just the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles out there, but any strong father figure that you may have.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast, 25 minutes past 6. And breaking news this morning, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer in an emotional video.
In the scenes, he's telling his co-stars Caleb Cooper and Charlie Ireland, his land agent and his farm manager, and they're both devastated, as you can imagine. You know, it's a huge bombshell to drop on them. He's only 66. He's made no secrets that he's maybe not lived the healthiest lifestyle. After the heart problems, he bemoans having to eat Greek yogurt and kale and whatnot. But following this, I think he's going to have a complete lifestyle overhaul even further, and just fingers crossed the treatment proves effective.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Hello there, Emily and Tom. Yes, some breaking news in the last few moments from Kensington Palace regarding our future king, Prince George of Wales, the oldest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The short statement from Kensington Palace reads, Kensington Palace can confirm that Prince George will attend Eton College in September. That news just coming in from the royal household in the last few moments. This clearly is, well, perhaps not surprising news for those in royal circles. Eton College, the most prestigious school, arguably in the country, educating 20 prime ministers, and of course Prince George's own father and uncle, Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as 2 Dukes of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent as well. So that confirmation just coming in from Kensington Palace. £63,000 a year it costs to send a child to Eton College.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Time is 4:52. A huge day in Westminster. Nigel Farage has announced that he will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering an historic by-election. The Reform UK leader insists he has not broken any laws amidst scrutiny over his personal finances.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing used public money. And you know, for the first 2 years of being an MP, my personal MP expenses are zero. Not, of course, that you'll read about that in mainstream media.
Well, there we go. Let's now speak with the political commentator, Andy Williams. Andy, welcome to the show. This, Nigel Farage insists, is a chance to stick 2 fingers up to the entire establishment. What's your take on an incredible day in politics?
Well, I think firstly it's a smart political move. You know, he will inevitably win the by-election, and I think holding it allows him to do a couple of things. Firstly, position Reform as a more sensible mainstream alternative to Restore, which is by any stretch of the imagination, by any metric, a far-right party. And, you know, I've been asked many times whether I think Reform is a far-right party. I've said no. Restore is a far-right party purely on the basis of the policies that they have put out and the things that Rupert Lowe says. So I think it's a smart move from that perspective. I also think when he wins, which, as I say, he almost certainly will, he will be able to claim vindication from the electorate and say, even if he is found to have broken some rules, and that remains to be seen, by the way, there's an ongoing investigation, if he has breached rules, he can say, well, it doesn't matter because I've been vindicated by the electorate. And as always with Farage, it's the anti-establishment framing, even though he is very much a member of the establishment. He's been an elected politician since 1999. He is a stockbroker. He went to public school. He is not by any serious definition somebody who is anything other than deeply establishment, but he's done a brilliant job of making the case that he is outside of the mainstream. So it'll be that positioning as well. So I think from a purely objective political analysis, this is a really, really smart move and Mike getting out of a very tricky situation. The final thing I'd say, though, is this. He still hasn't explained what that money was for. He still hasn't explained why £5 million hit his bank account. And it comes back to that question about whether Nigel Farage really is a man of the people, because most people who are watching this, most people in Britain don't see £5 million in their lifetime. He's been given it. Now, if he's got a generous benefactor, good luck to him. But it's interesting that he hasn't got his story straight.
Andy Williams, what do you make about the latest Westminster rumour with the Conservative Party with Alex Burkett, who's basically the number 2 to Kemi Badenoch, hinted that the Conservatives might not even field a candidate. Rupert Lowe has just said that Restore won't field a candidate, and Carl Turner, now an independent, has said that maybe they should place one candidate, an anti-sleaze candidate, against Nigel Farage. It could be an even more bizarre by-election.
Well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that about Restore, so that's very interesting. Story's obviously developing very quickly. Look, it's convenient for the Tories not to stand because despite this narrative that Kemi Badenoch's having some kind of resurgence, they're still polling unbelievably badly, historically badly. She is really not popular, and they would get absolutely pummeled in that by-election. So it's very, again, smart political move for them to frame it in that way, but it makes no sense for the Tories to run. That's really interesting from Carl Turner. If they could make it a 2-horse race, if they could say it's Farage and something that smells a bit funny and isn't really going away versus an anti-sleaze candidate, that could be really, really interesting. I like the sound of that.
OK, well, Andy Williams, the only other candidate so far who's announced is Count Binface, so I don't think that we'll get a clean-smelling candidate there. Andy Williams, thank you very much for your company, as ever. Always an absolute pleasure. Don't go anywhere. Huge reaction, of course, to that bombshell. Nigel Farage calling a by-election. What does it mean? I'll be here with Sir Michael Ellis. He'll explain the full legalities of that ongoing investigation. Don't go anywhere. What a day.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M11 northbound is closed between junctions 7A and 8 near Epping. The M60 anti-clockwise is closed between junctions 24 and 23 near Stockport. In Scotland, the M8 eastbound has lane restrictions near junction 19 at Kingston Bridge, causing queues. Across Wales, the A4232 northbound from St Fagans to the M4 junction 33 near Capel Llanilton is congested. And on the trains, there is major disruption on cross-country and southwestern railway services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Another quiet day in politics. Very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. Only one story in town today. Nigel Farage has dropped a bombshell and announced a by-election in Clacton.
Today, I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Yes, a huge political bombshell has been dropped on Westminster. Nigel Farage has announced that he will trigger a by-election by formally resigning as a Member of Parliament today. And it hasn't taken long for political leaders to jump on the opportunity to criticise Farage's move.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage, and it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze.
Like an admission of guilt. He should have come out, acknowledged that he'd done something wrong, said sorry, and everybody would have moved on. Instead, he doesn't want to do that. We're now having another man's ego by-election.
Keir Starmer steams in, Kemi Badenoch battering Nigel Farage back there. But who will win in the people versus the establishment by-election in Clacton that the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage just claims it will be a major, it will be a huge by-election. We'll have all the latest news, debate and analysis to this significant announcement. Do not go anywhere. Wow, what a day in Westminster. As the heat wave grips the country, the political heat has been turned to sweltering here in Westminster. Just before 2 p.m. this afternoon, Nigel Farage announced that he has resigned as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering a by-election, calling it, he says, a chance to stick two fingers up to the entire political establishment. But the establishment so far, well, will it play ball? The Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, wouldn't be drawn whether the Conservatives will even stand a candidate. Restore Britain, of course, Rupert Lowe's outfit have announced they will not stand the candidate. And Carl Turner, independent MP, formerly of the Labour Party, told me on the show earlier he thinks Labour should not stand the candidate either to not legitimise this by-election. And of course, the Standards Committee work will be temporarily paused. Sir Michael Ellis, the former Attorney General, is in the studio with me to fully set out the framework of that process, because the political opponents of Nigel Farage think that there could be a second by-election if the Standards Committee finds against him. And of course, the response to that is, oh God, not another one. There could be two by-elections. What a day in Westminster. Don't go anywhere. We'll have full, detailed, expert analysis on the show. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you. It's P for Clacton, triggering a by-election which he has vowed to fight in.
Today, I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Mr Farage revealed the news during a statement about the future of his public life following scrutiny over financial support given to him. The Reform UK leader said he has not broken the law in any way at all, adding he had not misused public money. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has responded to the news, calling it a desperate stunt, saying it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has responded, saying Farage is cracking under pressure, but she refused to say if the Tories will stand a candidate. Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe, meanwhile, has said his party will not stand in the by-election because they want to stand in a second one. Meanwhile, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey called for Nigel Farage to fund the Clacton by-election himself, which Reform UK has now offered to do. Elsewhere, Green Party leader Zach Polansky has accused Mr Farage of trying to con the public with this stunt. Prince Harry has lost his High Court privacy case against the Daily Mail. The Duke of Sussex and 6 other defendants, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Lawrence, had sued Associated Newspapers Limited for unlawful information gathering, but the High Court has today dismissed this claim. Associated Newspapers called it an overwhelming victory and a magnificent vindication of the Daily Mail's journalism. Moments after the announcement, Prince Harry, who is taking part in an Invictus Games Foundation conversation at Chatham House, gave a speech at the event, but he didn't mention the ruling. Sir Keir Starmer is in Ankara for the NATO summit, where he has met with the Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre, both dressed in football shirts. Ahead of their country's clash in the FIFA World Cup, Mr Støre reminded Sir Keir of a match that Norway won. Sir Keir replied, "What you're leaving out is that England only win the World Cup under Labour governments." Elsewhere at the summit, US President Donald Trump has renewed his calls for the US to take control of Greenland and warned he could pull all American troops out of Europe as he arrived for the meeting of NATO leaders. A murder investigation has been launched after a mother and her 2 children were found dead at a home in Bedfordshire. Police were called on Monday over concerns for 3 people who had not been seen for several days, and when officers forced entry into the property in Great Denham, they found the bodies of a woman and 2 children. Bedfordshire Police said they identified a suspect who has been known to all 3 victims and who they believe has now left the country. A French appeals court has cleared the way for Marine Le Pen to run in the 2027 presidential election, but with an electronic tag. It comes after she was found guilty of misusing public funds. A fine of over £74,000 is confirmed and 3 years of imprisonment, with 2 suspended and 1 year with an electronic bracelet. The UK has entered its 3rd heatwave so far this year, with temperatures predicted to climb as high as 35 degrees in some parts of the country this week. South East England has now officially met the heatwave criteria after 3 days of temperatures above 28 degrees. Temperatures are forecast to rise across the UK this week, with more regions likely to reach their local heatwave thresholds, according to the Met Office. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3372 US and 1.1705 euros. The price of gold is £3,095 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,685 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Sophia. High drama here in Westminster because earlier this afternoon, Nigel Farage announced that he will resign as the Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering, of course, a by-election that he will stand in as the candidate for Reform UK. Now, the Reform UK leader has come under increased scrutiny for failing to declare certain benefits, a rule breach which he completely denies.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law in any way at all. I have not misused public money.
Well, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is at a NATO summit in Turkey, and Sir Keir called Farage's resignation a desperate stunt, suggesting he's using the by-election to distract from the Parliamentary Standards investigation.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage, and it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Politics should be about improving the lives of millions of people, not about personal gain, not about hiding dodgy donations. And I think the public will see this for exactly what it is.
Up to his neck in sleaze, said the Prime Minister, brought down in part by the Mandelson scandal. Well, look, GB News' political editor Chris Hope joins us now from Westminster. Chris, there's a heat wave in Britain and the heat is in the red zone in Westminster. What an astonishing day in British politics.
It really is, Martin. Just to summarise there, we've got Nigel Farage resigning as the MP for Clacton, protesting vehemently about press intrusion, about the establishment, he says, trying to take him down. He says he'll take on all comers in this by-election in Clacton. The writ will be moved as soon as tomorrow, according to Lee Anderson, the party's chairman. He told that to us on GB News. As things stand, no other candidate or from any party is standing apart from Count Binface from the Count Binface party. Of course, he is not a serious candidate, let's say that about him. But Nigel Farage is trying to take on all comers. I mean, there might be anyone but Farage candidate. Carl Turner, the former Labour MP, has told you that he could stand, there could be an independent anti-sleaze, in quotes, candidate standing, as happened in the Tatton by-election. But Nigel Farage is clear. He's trying to draw a line under the pressure on him over the £5 million gift from Christopher Harborne, other links to George Cottrell, of course, and other people trying to expose where he lives, and maybe people speaking to his family members, and he hates that. With me now is Suella Braverman, a former Conservative MP who joined Reform UK. Suella Braverman, what do you make of this? You've been around the houses quite a while in politics. Why is he resigned? No one wants to stand against him. Is it all a stunt, as Keir Starmer says?
Not at all. I was in the room to listen to Nigel this afternoon, and it's plain that he is the victim of an establishment witch hunt. I can't really describe it any other way. His family, members of his own family, who have chosen not to go into public life, who don't have a political career, are being targeted now by the mainstream media. And Sky News, who harassed Nigel's daughter, has lied about trying to target his daughter. We've had now politicised and vexatious attacks on him, which have continued without cessation. So I think, you know, and there's also the broader issue, he is carrying significant personal risk to his safety. He's being let down, he's being attacked. Nigel's saying, I'm drawing a line to this establishment attempt to destroy me. I'm going to let the people of Clacton decide.
Just on that, Sky News was acting on behalf of the broadcast pool, of which GB News is a member. They knocked on the door. They don't think they spoke to the daughter of Nigel Farage, and they didn't go back after the door was answered. So there's an issue there with the media. The media, of course, have issued their defence of that. But stepping away from that, is it real? Is the establishment trying to bring down Nigel Farage? Is that the world of conspiracy more than reality?
I'm sorry, but I think that it is very clear now that they've crossed a line, whether it's the mainstream media, whether it's the Uni Party, the Labour and the Conservative Party, whether it's the parliamentary authorities. There is a concerted attempt to stop Farage and stop Reform. They're running scared. It's the Reform Party that is the largest political party in British politics. The Reform Party that's led in over 300 polls. It's the Reform Party that won the local elections, calling for Starmer to go and led to Starmer's resignation. The Reform Party is winning in British politics right now, and the establishment is petrified. And they're now resorting to dubious methods to try and stop Reform. It's absolutely outrageous.
You talk of dubious methods, but how can it be that Reform UK might pay for this by-election? I mean, how does that even work?
Well, I think that it's been made clear now from Reform that the costs of running a by-election would be borne by the party itself. I think that, again, reflects the integrity with which this is being done. This is not about wasting taxpayers' money. It does take money, it does cost money to run these by-elections, the local authorities, the polling stations, the tellers. There's a lot of manpower that goes into making these things run smoothly. It does cost money, and Reform has said, right, this is not about wasting taxpayers' money, we'll pay for it.
And what will change in this by-election? It's expected Nigel Farage will win, according to polling. What will change? We'll be in the same situation when he's returned as Labour MP for Clacton, not making for Clacton, and there'll be still be an inquiry into him by the Standards Commissioner, which will restart when he re-enters Parliament.
Well, this is about asking the people. As I've said, we've seen the establishment try and stop Reform and stop Nigel. The people who matter in all of this are the British people. They've been let down by 14 years of betrayal by the Conservative Party, my own party. I tried to stop it, I was unsuccessful. They're being let down now by the failures of the Labour Party, who are chopping and changing prime ministers without any kind of consideration for what the British people have asked for. This is about asking the people. That's who all MPs are fundamentally answerable to, and I think it's a very noble act that Nigel has done today, which is, let's put it to the people, let's see what they think, and let's see if the establishment is actually serving the interests of the British people.
Okay. Suella Braverman, thank you for joining us. Suella Braverman there, of course, the party's education spokesman, a former Conservative cabinet minister.
Thank you very much indeed there. Chris Hope joining us from Westminster with Suella Braverman. Let's get my next guest in now. Delighted to be joined by the Labour Party MP for Crewe and Nantwich, and that is Conor Naismith. Conor, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. Your boss for now, Sir Keir Starmer, has called this a desperate stunt from a politician up to his neck in sleeves. But my question to you is quite straightforward. Kemi Badenoch wouldn't even announce if the Conservatives will stand against Nigel Farage in Clacton. Will the Labour Party stand against Reform UK in Clacton, yes or no?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a decision above my pay grade, frankly, but I think there is merit in saying that, actually, do we want to give Nigel Farage the circus that he's asking for? I mean, I just have to say, the suggestion, I've just heard Suella Braverman say that Nigel Farage is a victim in this. The suggestion that Nigel Farage is a victim is completely ludicrous. The rules are the rules. They apply to everybody. And what we're talking about is a man who took £5 million in supposedly gifts from a foreign crypto billionaire, and who we now know was having his work funded by a convicted fraudster. This is not a man who is a victim. This is a man who is attempting to create a distraction and escape the rules. But the rules will catch up with him because they apply to everybody.
Nigel Farage, of course, said earlier on today he denies any wrongdoing. He maintains his position that there's no problem whatsoever with the money, and the Standards investigation is ongoing. Of course, we don't know the outcome of that. But, Conor, let's just get down to brass tacks. The by-election, as it stands, the metrics are quite straightforward. The Labour Party has practically no chance of winning in Clacton. Nobody does. This will be a one-horse race. So I'll ask you again, are you going to stand the candidate? And if you say you don't know, but your instinct is that we shouldn't grant it the circus, that just means you know you're going to lose, right?
No, I just think it's a valid argument to say that this is a sideshow being created by Nigel Farage, and maybe there's no.
So was Makerfield. I mean, Labour Party MPs, anointed a candidate who stood down and let Andy Burnham in. It was the political assassination of Sir Keir Starmer, and you're all queued up for selfies.
There's a very clear difference between what happened to Makerfield.
Is there?
Josh Simons stood down because he said he wanted to give Andy Burnham the opportunity to run for Parliament. He thought that he had something to say about the future of our country and should be the next leader.
Because you know that you'd lose your seat and the entire Labour Party would go down the toilet with Keir Starmer as a Prime Minister. It was a political move to replace a disastrous Prime Minister. And now calling a by-election is a stunt.
The difference is that was a move to create space for a potential leader of the country. This is a stunt to avoid scrutiny by Nigel Farage, avoid the processes that need to take place, and to kind of create some sort of distraction from the allegations that are being brought against Nigel Farage. Now, the worst thing about this is that the rules will come back to bite Nigel Farage anyway. The Parliamentary Standards Authority, the investigation that is taking place will not stop just because of this by-election. If Nigel Farage is re-elected, the investigation will continue. And so we might end up in this ludicrous situation where we end up with a second by-election. What a complete waste of everybody's time. Why doesn't Nigel Farage, if he's so confident that he's done nothing wrong, why doesn't he just wait for the parliamentary investigation to conclude, and then we can go to a by-election? He can stand in the by-election if he wants, and then the voters in Clacton can decide what the outcome is in the full knowledge of the outcome of that investigation.
Well, maybe, Conor Naismith, that might be because Nigel Farage might not think that the Standards Committee, the investigation, will be, how should we put it, politically neutral. I mean, it wasn't for Boris Johnson. Are we saying that an investigation into Nigel Farage will be entirely neutral and not be leveraged by the political dominant party in power, the Labour Party? We can't be sure, can we?
Look, let's say he's found to have breached the rules. Let's say it's all a stitch-up, as you sort of suggest. What happens then is he'll be subject to a recall petition, will have a by-election, and he can stand in that by-election. So if he's saying that he wants the voters of Clacton to judge him, not the Parliamentary Standards Authority, that can happen, but let the voters of Clacton do it in the full knowledge of the outcome of that investigation.
Yeah, but we don't know the outcome of that investigation. You're prejudging the outcome of that investigation, and that's what you're doing here, and that's the point. We have to let this run. Conor Nassif, we have to let it run, because I want to get to Sir Michael Ellis now. Michael Ellis, you know how these investigations work because you've sat on them. So let's just go right back to the beginning here. There's a lot of confusion about what happens now. So Nigel Farage today has triggered a by-election. There is an ongoing investigation into him, which we believe wasn't going to find its results until around about September. Now, effectively, he has stood down. What happens to that investigation? Earlier on, there's a rumour that it would simply go away. What's the truth?
Well, it won't simply go away, in my view. Look, under paragraph 40 of the protocols for the Commissioner for Standards in Parliament, in circumstances where a serving MP ceases to be an MP for any reason, the suspension of an investigation can take place. It is suspended, not stopped.
Right.
And it can be restarted after a by-election or after a general election. That is a matter that appears to be for the discretion of the Standards Commissioner. So what I would expect to happen here is that when Nigel Farage formally ceases to be a Member of Parliament in the next few days, when Rachel Reeves, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, signs a letter that appoints him to an office of profit under the Crown, he'll have to be appointed to the Manor of Northstead or the Chiltern Hundreds. He will cease in the next few days to be a Member of Parliament. That should suspend the investigation into him until such time as he is re-elected into Parliament. When he's re-elected into Parliament, the Standards Commissioner can restart that investigation and then will come to a conclusion whether he finds the case proven or not.
So point one, this won't simply vanish into the ether. It will recommence.
I don't think so.
If and when Nigel Farage is re-elected. To my next point, political neutrality. Is this a neutral, arbitrary court? Or, as we saw with Boris Johnson, there was a lot of allegations that it was rigged against Boris Johnson. It was leaning heavily against the Prime Minister of the time. If it recommences with Nigel Farage as a newly minted parliamentarian for Clacton, would he get a fair trial? Let's be blunt.
Well, first of all, it's not a trial because he's not alleged to have committed any criminal offence. And second of all, it consists mostly of members of Parliament of opposing parties to Nigel Farage.
So it has political bias factored in?
When it was created, that's how it was created. And of course, as Boris Johnson found and said at the time. So the reality is it's not a court of law. This isn't an independent judge.
But it's filled with parliamentarians who probably won't agree with Nigel Farage.
It consists of some lay people as well, I should point out, but the majority is parliamentarians. So if they were to... First of all, there's a few ifs here, Martin. If the Standards Commissioner was to find the case against him proven, he sends it then to the Committee on Standards. If the Committee on Standards finds the case satisfactory for a 10-day or more suspension, then it goes to a petition and the people of Clacton would decide.
OK, so, Michael, we'll have more on this because it's fascinating. We need to get this absolutely nailed on and factually correct. Thank you very much, Sir Michael Ellis. Now, plenty more reaction, of course, to come to Nigel Farage, that bombshell resignation as the Member of Parliament for Clacton, thereby triggering a by-election. It could be the most dramatic by-election since, well, Makerfield. That's next.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
Practice Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First of all, say welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, it's 5:26. Now, if you're just joining us, and earlier on today, of course, Nigel Farage has announced the bombshell. He will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering a huge by-election that he will stand in as the candidate for Reform UK. But the news was not welcome by the outgoing Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, of course, speaking at a NATO summit everyone's forgotten about over in Turkey.
This is a desperate stunt from Nigel Farage, and it's obvious why he's doing it. He is up to his neck in sleaze. Politics should be about improving the lives of millions of people, not about personal gain, not about hiding dodgy donations. And I think the public will see this for exactly what it is.
Let's now speak with the editor of Spiked, Tom Slater. Tom, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Isn't it incredible, Sir Keir Starmer here taking the moral high ground about sleaze, having been kicked out of office about the Mandelson scandal? I digress. What's your thoughts on this by-election today being called a huge bombshell in Westminster?
Oh, absolutely. It's an audacious political gamble, and it's one that you can certainly see the upsides of in terms of the ability of Nigel Farage to reclaim the initiative to fight this by-election if it is to happen on his terms, and really framing this around it's my constituents, it is the voters who should get to choose who the MP for Clacton is, not privileges committees, not a scandal-mongering media. Obviously, one can see the potential huge risks. We have seen a lot of anti-reform tactical voting across the country, and it could be a tremendous blow to Reform UK if this gamble doesn't pay off. But I think what's quite clear is that desire to get back on the front foot and to make that point very much in public that it comes down to the people. Now it's back to the people of Clacton to decide.
What do you make of the rumours that are swirling around Westminster now? We've had confirmation more or less from the Conservative Party, Tom Burkett, who said that it might be an idea to not stand the candidate at all against Nigel Farage. Cole Turner, former Labour parliamentarian, now an independent, saying perhaps a single anti-sleaze candidate should stand. I mean, is that a good thing, or might that feed into this conspiracy that Nigel Farage has as, well, the whole establishment that is going to gang up to try and stop me?
Well, it certainly underlines the danger, because Nigel Farage has, I believe, the strongest margin of any of the Reform MPs who were elected in 2024, but it's still 46% of the vote. So if you did have a coalescing of anti-reform voters behind one particular candidate, that could do it for it. We've seen in various recent by-elections voters sorting themselves into those kinds of groups, and as well as campaigns and parties quietly not campaigning to the full extent because they've informally worked out who their main candidate is going to be. So it really is a danger. But again, as you say, there's also the flip side of that, which is that Clacton was, 70% Leave constituency. Nigel Farage is obviously a huge figure nationally, and it certainly would, at least in that sense, play into this narrative that everyone is out to get him, and that if you want to return your man to Parliament, you've got to get behind him. So who knows how this will all come out in the wash, but it really does underline that narrative that certainly Reform and Farage are keen to put out here today.
Okay, Tom Slater, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your time. Editor of Spiked, Tom Slater. Now, Sir Michael Ellis, the former Attorney General, of course, is still with me in the studio in Westminster. Sir Michael, a fascinating development, a rumour swirling around Westminster that Rachel Reeves yet might torpedo Farage's plan. What's going on?
Well, the Chancellor of the Exchequer has to appoint any Member of Parliament who wishes to step down as a Member of Parliament to an office of profit under the Crown, because MPs are not allowed to resign. So the political device that's used is they're appointed to an office of profit under the Crown. That's the Chiltern Hundreds or the Manor of Northstead. And Nigel Farage, as Josh Simons did before him, has to apply to hold that office to the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Rachel Reeves would have to sign a letter. That's normally done in the next 2 or 3 days. Can she refuse to do that? Yes. The last time that happened, 1842.
Wow.
There's some speculation, I'm not taking it seriously at the moment, that she might refuse. If she was to refuse to do that, it would be nearly 200 years since that's happened. I think she's going to have to let him have the by-election.
So, Michael, may I ask you about another point? There's a huge news line today. Reform UK are offering to bankroll the whole election. What is it, about £230,000 for a by-election to be the cost to the Exchequer? Is it feasible? Is it permissible for a political party to bankroll a by-election?
By-elections cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. Political parties are allowed to spend up to £180,000 of their own money. So when political parties say they're not going to field a candidate, they're saving up to £180,000 of their own money. Can a political party pay for it? I don't think so. The taxpayer has to pay for that. I don't think there'll be a possibility, a device for a political party to do that, because it would potentially look quite improper for a political party to be funding a by-election. As to whether it's strictly forbidden by law, that would need to be researched, but I don't think that will be allowed.
Because, of course, during a regular by-election, you can't even buy a candidate a sandwich or a cup of tea. That can appear to be adding influence to how they cast their votes.
That's right.
So potentially paying for the whole by-election, that may also have that implication.
I expect what will happen, Martin, is that Rachel Reeves will sign the letter appointing Nigel Farage in the next few days. The whip will then make the writ of summons in the chamber of the House of Commons in the next few days, and certainly before the House rises for its summer recess. And then the by-election has to take place, I think it's at least 4 or 5 weeks by law after the writ is issued. So we could see an August or early September by-election.
I think Lee Anderson from Reform UK told Chris Hope, GBNews, they want the elections to take part in the first or the second week of August. So it could be even sooner.
It may technically be possible.
In Makerfield, of course, Andy Burnham crunched the time down, which prohibited his opponents from forming up and getting their ground game going. Michael S., superb as ever. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, still plenty to come. More reaction, of course. Huge reaction to Nigel Farage resigning as the MP for Clacton, triggering that huge by-election. But could the move backfire? But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, here is your traffic and your travel update. Stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M60 anti-clockwise is closed between junction 24 at and junction 23 near Stockport. There is a collision causing slow traffic on the M60 anti-clockwise near Trafford. The M20 eastbound near Gravesend is affected by a collision. The M25 clockwise is affected by a collision near Waltham Abbey. The A610 eastbound is closed after the M1 junction 26 near Nottingham. In Scotland, the M74 northbound at Junction 1 near Kingston has lane restrictions with 3 lanes closed. And on the trains, there is major disruption between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst affecting cross-country and South Western Railway services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 5:33. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has announced he will quit as an MP for Clacton, triggering a by-election which he has vowed to fight in. The Reform UK leader said he has not broken the law in any way at all, adding he had not misused public money. Prince Harry has lost his High Court privacy case against the Daily Mail. The Duke of Sussex and 6 other defendants, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Lawrence, had sued Associated Newspapers Limited for unlawful information gathering, but the High Court has today dismissed the claims. US President Donald Trump has renewed his calls for the US to take control of Greenland and warned he could pull all American troops out of Europe. It's as he arrived for the meeting of NATO leaders in Ankara. The UK has entered its third heat wave so far this year, with temperatures predicted to climb as high as 35 degrees in some parts of the country later this week. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The heatwave continues across the south and the heat is going to gently waft further north as we go into tomorrow. UV levels and in places pollen levels are very high at the moment. Quite a bit of cloud across northern Britain today, but that cloud is breaking up. Some evening sunshine across eastern Scotland and the east of Northern Ireland. Western Scotland keeps outbreaks of rain going through the night, but for most it's dry. Long clear spells across the south. Again, around some coasts, particularly in the southwest, it may stay a little misty and murky. Temperatures holding up, quite a warm night. May not get below 18 or 19 in the capital. Most places start Wednesday about 15 or 16. We'll start still with a fair bit of cloud across Scotland, particularly so in the west. Thick enough still for some showery rain at times here, particularly over the mountains. But some breaks to the east across Scotland, and the skies also showing signs of that cloud breaking up across Northern Ireland in the morning. Quite a bit of cloud to the west of the Pennines, again to the east and further south. Lots and lots of sunshine to come on Wednesday. Just the threat of a bit of mist at times along some of these eastern coasts. Through the day, not a great deal of change, but I think that cloud will break up more over Northern Ireland, western Scotland and northwest England to reveal some sunshine. Always the chance of 1 or 2 showers coming into the far northwest of Scotland. But otherwise, it's dry. And it's hot in the south, 31, 32, maybe 33 Celsius. And further north, that heat is pushing in. So a hotter day for the east of Northern Ireland, southern and eastern Scotland, getting into the low to mid-20s and high 20s over parts of northern England. So generally a hotter day across northern areas tomorrow. A balmy summer's evening for many. Wednesday evening stays clear. More sunshine to come. A bit more cloud at times still across Scotland, particularly into the weekend. But lots of sunshine, and it is going to be hot in the south. Temperatures widely into the low 30s, perhaps dropping off a bit for Saturday.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
It's 5:38 now. A reminder, there's some other huge breaking news from earlier on today, and it's this. Prince Harry has lost his privacy case against the Daily Mail's publisher, Associated Newspapers Limited. Now, the judge said, although the allegations were serious, the claimants needed more convincing evidence before they could be proven as true. A terrible news day for Prince Harry. Let's now join GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, a bad news day and could be a very, very expensive day for Prince Harry.
Well, it's turning into a bad news week, Martin, to be perfectly honest. A hugely bitter blow for him. Of course, this was the third in a string of high-profile litigations against British tabloids. He kind of partially won the Mirror Group newspaper case. He then settled out of court with the Sun's publisher. But this really was a complete loss for Prince Harry today in the High Court. He wanted it to be a personal crusade. He even said on the record that one of the prime reasons for the breakdown in the relationship between the King, his father, and Prince William, his brother, was all of these high court battles he was pursuing. And unfortunately for Harry, he has lost that final battle. So he was one of several high-profile claimants in this case against the publisher of the Mail and the Mail on Sunday, including Baroness Lawrence, Elizabeth Hurley, Elton John, David Furnish, Sir Simon Hughes and Sadie Frost. They alleged that journalists at the Mail and Mail on Sunday obtained information unlawfully through phone hacking, hiring private investigators, blagging, corrupt payments and other unlawful methods. The judge ruled that all those claims were dismissed. The claimants did not prove on the balance of probabilities that the stories resulted from unlawful information gathering. The judge ruled that suspicion alone was not enough where there were plausible lawful explanations. The case, though, the judge did say, was not an inquiry into Associated Newspapers' wider practices, what he described as wider practices. The court only decided on those 50-odd articles that were tested during the course of this trial, which lasted almost 2 months. Now, Paul Dacre, who's the chief executive of Associated Newspapers, he called the whole thing in his on-camera statement a conspiracy against the free press. Associated called it an overwhelming victory for the Daily Mail and its journalists and said every allegation was dismissed. The judgment was a magnificent vindication of its journalism. They also said that the serious allegations were unsupported by credible evidence and the litigation was politically motivated, the Mail says, and aimed at muzzling the free press. Now, Prince Harry and the other claimants could face a very big financial bill to pay Daily Mail's legal costs. They want £50 million. That is going to be settled later on this month.
50 million quid. What a right royal sting. Thank you very much indeed. GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker there for the full update on Prince Harry losing at the High Court. Now, GB News' political editor Chris Hope now joins me from Westminster. Chris, you've got another guest for us. The heat is through the roof in Westminster. Over to you.
It's really hot in Westminster here in Victoria Palace Gardens, and the heat is on really Nigel Farage, it seems, because all other parties are not standing against him. He may be fighting to be MP for Clacton against Count Binface, which could be awkward if Count Binface gets lots of votes. But of course, he could end up being the anyone but Farage contest in the upcoming Clacton by-election, called today by Nigel Farage in protest at the way the establishment is going after him on scrutiny on the money he's received from other richer individuals. With me now is Josh Babarindi. He, of course, is the Liberal Democrat president and an MP too. Josh Babarindi, why weren't you standing against Nigel Farage? Are you scared of him?
The person who is running scared is Nigel Farage. He's not done this out of principle. He's done it because he's been caught red-handed taking millions in undeclared donations from a convicted fraudster and others.
Not millions in those. I mean, there's a gift here from Christopher Harborne. He's not anything like what you say there. He gave him a gift.
He has taken millions from convicted fraudsters and others, and he has not disclosed those, and he is scared of an investigation by the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner, indeed one that's already undergoing and another that I referred to him over the weekend. Nigel Farage doesn't give a toss about the British people here. He is protecting his own back. Now, we shouldn't humour him with the by-election that he wants. We shouldn't give oxygen to him on this. Instead, we should make sure that he is subject to the very investigation that he is trying to duck. And as per the rules, the investigation may be suspended as we speak, but should he be returned to Parliament, it carries on, and I await that investigation.
But Ed Davey talks a lot about Nigel Farage, almost as much as he talks about Donald Trump in Parliament. You've got a chance here to kick him out for good. Why not stand against him, take on the fight, to take on the challenge, the gauntlet laid down by Nigel Farage?
Nigel Farage needs to meet the challenge laid down by those of us who have referred him to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner for the way in which he has conducted his financial affairs. He promised that he would be something new, anti-establishment, that the sleaze would be gone. Those days were gone. But he looks like the same as them who have come before him, taking big money, not being clear about who controls him, despite the fact that he's made a career out of taking back control.
Well, he says there's no strings attached to the money. He says it's all fine. There's no problem here.
Why is he ducking an investigation? If he thinks it is all fine, then why is he getting in the way of an investigation? If he really thinks he's done nothing wrong, he will fully comply and cooperate with this investigation, let it do what it's going to do, and then if there's a by-election in the aftermath of that, he fights it if he wants. But he is trying to duck accountability here, and I'm afraid that we're not going to let him do that.
But what you are doing is ducking a fight with Nigel Farage. You look scared to viewers.
Nigel Farage is the one who's literally running scared. He is the one who's running away from his seat and from the investigation and creating a big media storm to distract from his misdemeanors. If he is really confident that he's done nothing wrong, he would have sat tight, waited for the investigation, and if he objected to the way that that was done or something, make a point there. He's running away, and what Liberal Democrats are saying is, you will be held to account. You'll be held to account, sure, by the people of Clacton, but you'll be held to account by the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner.
And just to be clear, Lib Dems won't stand, correct?
Lib Dems have said that if there is a by-election, all political parties should not humour him with the oxygen
so you won't
that he
stand.
wants. If all political parties join and say, look, we're not going to humour you with an election, we can avoid giving Farage what he wants and instead make sure that he faces accountability.
How about a single anti-corruption, anti-sleaze candidate as proposed by MP Carl Turner?
Well, if we really want to root out sleaze and alleged corruption, then we need to wait to see what that Parliamentary Standards Commissioner says about his conduct.
Josh Babrindy, the President of the Lib Dems, thank you for joining us today in Westminster on GB for GB News. Martin, you heard it there. The Lib Dems are saying they won't stand the candidate if no one else does too. So all eyes really on Labour and the Tories tonight.
Yeah, the headline there is party with zero chance of winning an election won't stand in election. Thank you very much indeed there, Chris Oak, for joining us live from Westminster. Now, don't go anywhere. Plenty more reaction yet to cram in before the end of the show. Nigel Farage resigning as the MP for Clacton, triggering a huge by-election. That's next here on GB News.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Pretty much wall-to-wall strong sunshine across the Mediterranean for this week. Very hot too in Spain and Portugal. That heat slowly easing. Pretty warm too in the Canaries. Light winds, lots of blue sky for Spain, Portugal, for Mallorca as well, and most of Italy. Small chance of 1 or 2 showers across the east. The odd shower inland across Greece as well. But most of the Greek islands dry and sunny. Plenty more blue sky to come through the rest of this week. Temperatures easing a touch in Spain.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
But what message would you just like to say? Because this one's voted for by the public.
Yes.
And it's all down to the viewers. What message have you got for those guys?
Well, we've got the best viewers in the world, haven't we? The most loyal viewers, the best viewers. And, of course, they've supported Breakfast for so many years with Ellie and all the other members of Breakfast. And, you know, we can't do it without them.
Yeah, I think we are unique, GB News, in the way that our viewers are really central to everything that we do. So, you know, with our GB Views at gbnews.com, we're always reading off the comments. We have viewers on all the time to talk to us about our stories. I think we are the only place that actually has our viewers front and centre. So it's so nice to have something back in a Trick Award when they recognise, you know, the hard work that we try and do every single year. So please God, 4 years on the trot would be great, wouldn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Is now wearing a Pegasus necklace badge commemorating the airborne forces. This week, 76 years ago, started the Korean War, often known as the Forgotten War. This is an opportunity for remembrance as well, isn't it?
That's right. In remembering with all of the conflicts, it's affected every single person here who is in uniform. But it doesn't just stop there. Once they do get to the end of their service, they're often felt like they're forgotten about. So a big part of it is about remembering those that have fallen, but also those that are still alive and that are still with their own struggles. I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do now. I lead international expeditions and have done for the last 30 years. And the majority of those skills and that skill set and why I get asked back come directly from my time in the service, my time in the Royal Marines.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast has won the Trick Awards for the 4th year on the trot. I'm here with Alex Armstrong and Diamond and Ellie Costello. Guys, congratulations. Ellie, how does it feel?
Just incredible. I was really hoping we could do it 4 years on the bounce, but you can't take these things for granted, can you? And I did think maybe they'll want to give it to someone else this year, and I really, really wanted us to win. Because Anne is here from her cruise.
Brilliant, yeah.
And Anne, your acceptance speech was amazing. You reflected on your years in the industry. How much does this mean?
I was able to hold one of these was 40 years ago, 1986, for the same sort of breakfast television programme that they said would never catch on.
There you go.
Full circle moment.
And what message have you got for GB News viewers? Because obviously this is voted for by the public.
Oh, it's thanks. I mean, it's real thanks, because that's why this award is so important.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Huge day in Westminster. It's now 10 to 6. Nigel Farage, of course, has announced that he will resign as the Member of Parliament for Clacton, triggering a huge by-election with historic significance. Let's now speak with the Reform leader of Lincolnshire County Council, and that is Sean Matthews. Sean, welcome to the show. Nigel Farage is putting this forward as a chance to stick two fingers up to the entire establishment, but Sir Keir Starmer saying he is running scared and up to his neck in sleaze.
Honestly, I don't understand this. They turn around and they tell everybody that the investigation will continue anyway, regardless of the result of the by-election. So how in any way is that taken that Nigel Farage is running scared? The story here is not about the by-election. It's about the dreadful way the mainstream media and the people in the establishment, like the Labour and the Conservative Party, have treated Nigel and his family. It's absolutely shocking. And I'm proud to stand with him today and say we will go to Clacton and run in that by-election and support him in every way we can.
Sean Matthews, Kemi Badenoch has dismissed this as a hissy fit and claimed that Nigel Farage is a man who cannot handle pressure. He is cracking under pressure. What do you say to that?
Absolutely not. He's not cracking under pressure. He's just furious. How dare they? How dare the Tories and the Labour Party and the mainstream media hunt his daughter and accuse him of things that he quite clearly hasn't done? Nothing that he has done is wrong. He has not broken any rules or any law. And yet every single time the mainstream establishment go out and hunt him, they hunt me. They try and get me caught out on doing things that I haven't done. They just don't like reform, and that's that.
Sean Matthews, thank you very much. We've got to leave it there. We've got some breaking news for you, and it's this. Chris Hope, let's get back to you. You've got some huge breaking news to end the show for us on Chris Hope.
Martin, I can confirm now that the Tories will not be standing candidate in the Clacton by-election triggered by Nigel Farage's resignation today as the MP. Kemi Badenoch has issued a statement in the past few moments. We will not be standing a candidate in this fake by-election that Farage is causing to distract people from what's happening, she says. We need to let that investigation by Parliament run its course, and the real reason they say why Farage has resigned is because he's terrified that he's found to be doing something wrong. The best thing for him to have done would be to call a press conference and explain what he did with the money, apologise if needs be, and that would have been the end of it. Instead, he's running away from scrutiny. We, the Tories, are focused on uniting the country, and so she goes on, but won't be distracted by random by-elections caused by a hissy fit. So there you have it. The Tories will not take on Nigel Farage in his backyard. They will not stand a candidate in the Clacton by-election. The Lib Dems won't do it if no one else does it. Restore Britain, they are not standing one. We wait on what Labour's doing. If Labour are also saying they won't stand a candidate, that means there'll be no candidate against Nigel Farage in the Clapton by-election, which could be triggered tomorrow when the writ is moved. That could happen in the first week of August or the second week. It could be, frankly, Nigel Farage versus Count Binface.
Astonishing news to end the show, and thank you very much, Chris O. What a hard-working journalist you are. You're the best in business. Thank you very much. Sir Michael S. Very, very quickly for you. We've got 45 seconds. The Tories won't stand. The Lib Dems won't stand. Is that a virtue, or is this the Uni Party refusing to take Nigel Farage on?
I think it's the right decision from Kemi Badenoch there, simply because it's quite obviously Nigel is trying to prove a political point here for his own purposes. It is a theatrical stunt, and therefore, where the other parties are saying we're not going to stand a candidate, they're saving themselves a six-figure sum, but they're also saving themselves having to focus on Nigel Farage instead of focus on the national interest.
But they're also saving themselves from getting a good hiding in a seat they possibly can't win. But nevertheless, they've dressed it as virtue. What a huge day. So, Michael S., you've been epic as ever. Thank you very much. Jubes goes up next tonight, I think, with Dawn. No, it is with Jubes. It's with Dawn Neeson. I'm back at 7 o'clock. Get back then. This story is getting bigger and bigger by the second. See you at 7.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The heatwave continues across the south, and the heat is going to gently waft further north as we go into tomorrow. UV levels and, in places, pollen levels are very high at the moment. Quite a bit of cloud across northern Britain today, but that cloud is breaking up. Some evening sunshine across eastern Scotland and the east of Northern Ireland. Western Scotland keeps outbreaks of rain going through the night, but for most it's dry. Long, clear spells across the south. Again, around some coasts, particularly in the southwest, it may stay a little misty and murky. Temperatures holding up, quite a warm night. May not get below 18 or 19 in the capital. Most places start Wednesday about 15 or 16. We'll start still with a fair bit of cloud across Scotland, particularly so in the west. Thick enough still for some showery rain at times here, particularly over the mountains. But some breaks to the east across Scotland, and the skies also showing signs of that cloud breaking up across Northern Ireland in the morning. Quite a bit of cloud to the west of the Pennines, again to the east and further south. Lots and lots of sunshine to come on